Hi there, Colin Davis, ShadowTechAlchemy.com, SolutioPodcast.com, MelissaMariMovie.com, and today is Tuesday, February 24th of 2026, and this is our Tuesday night Solutio live stream, and as usual, I'll talk for a little while, I'll share some information about my own alchemical journey, and what I've learned that I can maybe help you with. If there's anything that I've learned that can help you, I'd be happy to share. And then therefore, if you would like to comment in the chat box, or if you'd like to call into the show, you can do that. And you can just look in the YouTube description or go to SolutioPodcast.com, and you can get all the phone numbers and everything for how to do that. You can use WhatsApp if you're outside of the US, or there's a phone number for the US. And you just send me a text and tell me your name, and then I'll bring you up when it's time to take calls. So that's just very easy, and I really welcome you guys to call into the show. If you don't want to call in, you're just free to just hang out in the chat room, and that's great too, and we can do a lot that way, so that's totally fine by me as well. But if you would like to call in, you can just text and we'll talk to you, because this really is a community call. It's a community broadcast. That's why I'm doing this. Melissa and I, we had our little alchemical lab of relational alchemy and artistry that we were just fully ensconced in, and didn't necessarily have to have a public function, but it was part of our being. It was part of our modality. We wanted to help, and I had been in other fields where I had been coaching and helping people, such as in foreclosure law, real estate law and foreclosure procedure, and had been doing that since about 2009. So I had already been in the habit of helping people with specialized information. And then I was always studying, not always, but as of about 21 years ago, I started studying Jungian psychology. And then, it took quite a number of years before I could even really competently talk about it because it's so deep. It's so deep, and you don't even know if you've, where the periphery of the thing is. You don't even know where the boundaries of the science are, and for a long time. And then finally, after enough reading of other Jungians and all of that, then you kind of go, oh, okay, I kind of see what it is. And so it's definitely something that I can sympathize with people who are new to the path, and they're thinking, okay, I got to work on myself, and I've heard about shadow work, I've heard about Carl Jung, or what I've read so far sounds really great, and they just intuitively know that this is their path. Maybe they've already been interested in some kind of mysticism or some kind of other spiritual science, so to speak, and then they find Jung, and they're like, okay, this just feels right. This feels right for me. And so they start diving in, but it's like, what is this, and where does it, what do we do with this, and how does this work and stuff? So that takes quite a while. And so that's one of the things that I would like to do, and that I have been doing, is to help people to navigate that territory. Now, I'm not a PhD Jungian or anything like that. I mean, I've just found this as a layperson, but because I've been dabbling in it and using it for 20 years, I kind of have some idea about how this all goes. And then with the 12 years that I had with Melissa, that was a graduate level program. That was just, I took the 8 years or so that I had working on myself. I kind of was working on myself my whole life, really, but I got really deep into it in about 2004 or 5, when I had a huge crash. I had a big dark night of the soul. And so that's what really took me down. Like I've told this story, I grabbed Robert Johnson's book, Owning Your Own Shadow, and just started with that. And then I went into different Jungians, and I went into all kinds of other directions as well. But that was kind of the main thing that kind of held me. I was doing dowsing and tarot. I never really fell too far into astrology for whatever reason. It just felt too wishy-washy for me. And whereas the Jungian psychology has that mystical element to it, but it doesn't feel wishy-washy. It's like, you can prove it out in your own life. And I guess the people who are into astrology will tell you the same thing. So it's not anything that I consciously went into or didn't go into. It's just kind of been following my intuition on this. But yeah, so I had some experience psychoanalyzing myself and using some of these models. And then when Melissa and I started our journey together, that would have been late 13, that just blew everything up. That was just, no, it didn't blow everything up. That just charged us, is what I want to say. Completely charged us, and we just took off. And so we were just, really studying the models, applying the models, trying to work out our own stuff, and just really downloading for years. And that's really where I think before that, I was just I had an introduction to the work, to the path. And then when Melissa and I started together, then that was the real laboratory work. That was like, okay, this is it. This is what you're doing now. And then, as many people know, Melissa passed a little over a year ago. And so that was almost exactly a 12-year period. And that was just, that was just a huge thing. I just loved Melissa so incredibly deeply, and we were so merged, so fused psychically, and I never thought that she would pass. I didn't think the cancer was going to get her, and she had been through so many other dark nights of the soul that she figured, well, probably can make it through this one too. And I was like, yeah, you can make it through this one too. You can make it. But the cancer didn't even kill her. Her body just shut down one day. And then it just shut down process. The shutdown instructions just started running. And then it only took about 2 weeks, and then she left the body. So that was a gigantic shock. I'm still processing it every day. I'm still processing it. The grief is still there. I'm still crying constantly. I'm still telling stories. Stories are going on in my head. And I talk to her. I have an altar, and I talk to the altar. And I still, I pick up her items and I touch her items. I sometimes go into the closet and smell I stopped doing that actually, but I did go into the closet just the other day for something else, and I smelled her clothing that was still there. So I have put a lot of this, I have processed a lot of the grief. I don't know how much of it, but a big chunk of it, probably over half of it. So I really have done well on that, but there's still more. But I'm now finally able to kind of feel myself and my own individuality, and be able to think about myself and my future without Melissa. And as many know, I was producing that movie about her, Melissa Mari, musical alchemist of stage and psyche. And you can watch the film, just go to melissamarimovie.com. But I was producing that for, I think I worked on it for 11 months, all of 2025. And so that really had me being in touch with Melissa, because I was constantly looking at this computer monitor and constantly looking at footage of her and pictures and all of that, and listening to her voice and everything. So in a way, it was actually kind of therapeutic, and it was very nice actually, because I could keep her in my psyche. But now that phase is over, and I'm shopping it to film festivals, and I'm doing this Solutio show now. And so this is something different. Now, Melissa and I, we did Zoom shows. We did a couple podcasts, but we kind of fell off because it was just us talking amongst ourselves. I was like, okay, we've gone through all our subjects. We don't need to really continue with this. And, it's so hard to break through on YouTube and to get people watching your show and everything. And it's very deep material, and it's kind of slow, and you kind of have to calm down and hang with it, and you have to reflect and all of that. And that's not really where the zeitgeist is. Although there is a growing movement. And I wanted to talk to you guys about that tonight, about the alchemists, and the movement of psychospiritual alchemists, and where this is and where we're going. I have a number of things I'm going to talk to you about tonight. And I'm going to read to you from a document from Sheila Foster called Archetypes of the Sacred Feminine, which I use in conjunction with Robert Moore's books. But so we're going to get into that as well. Got a number of things, but I'm just looking at my notes here, and I was gonna, just kind of keep going here on this on the thread of Melissa and kind of my journey with the whole psychospiritual thing and the Jungian thing. And so we had 12 years of this deep processing, and it was a combination of it was very creative. We normally, both of us being musicians, and Melissa being just completely committed to music. I mean, I was completely committed to music, just music recording, producing, touring, everything, for 20 something years or whatever. But then I started moving in this more intellectual and psychospiritual domain. And Melissa, she could have just kept on going until she was 90. She just would have been jumping on stages forever. But when we got together, we had we had a problem to solve. And it sort of turned out that you could say, not coincidentally, that's not the right word, we both always wanted to know, what is the nature of human darkness? What is the nature of evil? What causes these mass hysterias and wars and all of the crazy stuff that people do to each other? And Melissa had been writing about this stuff in her songs for decades. So that's how she was kind of exploring it in her own mind, and reading, of course, and then putting it into her lyrics. And I was looking at red pill stuff. Actually, she was looking at red pill stuff too. But I was looking at red pill stuff, and I was reading about psychopaths and sort of toxic ideologies and things like this. And I was like poking at it for years. And then when we came together, we realized it was just an intuition that, first of all, we realized that we needed to work on ourselves and that we could do that very deeply as a couple, because we're both interested and capable of psychoanalyzing ourselves. So we realized, we said this within the first month. We said, oh, okay, wow, okay, we're in a relationship now? Wow. Well, this is a really good opportunity for us. We better take this opportunity because we both got a lot of shadow junk. We both got old childhood wounds. I'd say Melissa probably had more of it than me. But we got intergenerational junk. We got neurotic stuff. We have not really fully, either of us felt like we hadn't reached our full potential. And we realized that a lot of that stuff was due to our complexes, due to our shadow material. And we both had enough knowledge of the psyche, enough to fathom what it was. We could just fathom what it was, although we didn't know all the stuff that we know now, or that I know now. And so when we got together, it was like, okay, it's on. And we just started pulling ourselves apart and reading a lot and discussing and problem solving and writing stuff down and filling up notebooks. And if you watch the movie, you'll see some of that materials in there. And we just were dedicated to trying to understand the nature of the shadow, both in the psyche and in the culture in the world. And so we were on that. And we didn't know why. We just knew that it was coming through us. And at first we thought we were going to make a movie. It was going to be called V is for Virus, because we used the term virus back then to describe the communicable nature of the human shadow. And around that time, we found Paul Levy and his idea of Wetiko. And so that helped us to be like, okay, yes, there's others talking like this. And so, but then we realized, okay, well, we're not quite advanced enough to make the movie. And then we thought, well, maybe it's going to be a comic book. So we started with the comic book. And then we're like, no, that's not quite it either. And then I finally realized, okay, in order to go to the next level with this, I'm going to have to write a book. I'm going to have to put all of our ideas, all our research into a book. And then once that book is done, then that can be kind of the basis for the next stage of things. And so I just crunched that. And I look back at it, and it's like all the stuff that I still work with now was in that book in its original form. And so Shadow Tech, that came out in late 2015. And then once that was out, then we started making music. And Melissa was happy about that because she had been kind of waiting. She's like, okay, well, my boyfriend is a music producer, professional musician, and why can't we make music? And I was just like, well, because my mind I can kind of go in one domain or the other. I can kind of go more into the right brain mode or more into the left brain mode. And I needed to be more into the left brain magicianship at the time. And this is just coming through us. And it's like, there's no larger agenda. We're just like artists, and this is what's coming through us. So we were really on it with that. And then we went into the music, and then we eventually created the band, the O1 Experience, and then we started putting everything that was in Shadow Tech into musical form, and with visuals and all the lyrics and everything. It was a concept band. And so it took us 4 years to do that. And so that was kind of the whole kind of creative thing that was going on. And then at the same time, we're dealing with all of our junk, right? So we got this creative mode. This is like the light side. And then we're dealing with all of our junk. We're getting into arguments with each other, right? Melissa almost left a few times, just like left, grabbed her bags and like almost left a couple times. And when you get into a relationship after a while, the pain body, so to speak, your complexes, your shadow complexes start to turn on. And, then they start to partially run the show. And then you kind of get taken over, or you can get taken over, and then you start talking in ways that are not really conducive to symbiosis, let's say, and you don't even know you're doing it. And you start acting in ways that trigger the other person's pain body, the other person's parts or complex, or whatever terms we want to use for your dissociated parts, for your shadow material. And so then that comes up, and then we were like, oh, okay, we're triggering each other. We're getting into arguments, and things are happening that are negative. Okay, what is this? What is this? How does this work? How does this relate to what we've been studying? And it came to us early on that like sort of the key to this was to understand the archetype of parasitism, and that you have parasitism in all domains. You have political parasitism and commercial parasitism and relational parasitism and psychic parasitism and all these. And we realized that this is an archetype, and that, of course, if there's viruses and there's biological parasites, well, then there's psychic parasites. And that was kind of our early intuition about how to think about what we later realized Tolle was calling the pain body, or what they call dissociated parts in IFS, or what Jung called autonomous complexes. We gradually started to pick up these other models and apply those, but we were studying this at a meta level. And I was already kind of thinking at a meta level because I was already reading integral theory and spiral dynamics and that kind of stuff. So I was already kind of trained to think at a meta level. And then Melissa was also naturally able to think at a meta level. She never read spiral dynamics or any of that stuff. But I would just explain it to her, and she'd be like, oh yeah, and she would just get it. So we would just we would go back and forth. We called it holon jumping. I think she came up with that term, holon jumping. And so we would jump, as above, so below is basically the same thing, the alchemical maxim. And so we would jump from the culture or biology to the psyche, and whatever other domain, to metaphysics. And we would jump from these, and we would say, well, if you have a principle or property in this domain, well, then you're going to have a self-similar property or principle in this domain. And if you have it in there, you're going to have a self-similar, like the fractal self-similarity concept. And so we would just constantly analyze and all of this. And so we weren't just in our heads coming up with theory and reading books and synthesizing and stuff. We were comparing, we were following our intuition like artists. And we were just letting the material come to us. We were letting synchronicities show us where to go next. And we were just intuitively being guided into the domain or into the epiphany that we needed to go to the next step of figuring out what we were supposed to figure out. And so that's been what this whole thing has been about. And Melissa was very, very courageous and very, very willing to analyze her own projections, her own reactivity or triggerability, and she didn't present too many ego defenses. When something negative would happen between us, or just out of her own psyche, she would be able to analyze it without having to deflect or having to deny or having to sweep it under the rug. She would do something with it. She was like, okay, I'm in this alchemical relationship now. I'm in this laboratory now. It's my job to start unwinding this stuff that I've been carrying around not only my whole life, but carrying around my parents' and ancestors' stuff. It's my responsibility to unwind this and use this opportunity that I have right now, where she had a partner that could help analyze things. And she did that. So she would journal about it, and she kept a dream journal. And then we would always talk, every day, especially at dinner time. We would always talk and try to figure out what was going on in ourselves. So we were constantly doing that. And yes, there were ego defenses. Yes, there was reactivity that was unconscious and all of that, but we would always come back, and one or the other would say, well, remember what happened? Let's not sweep that under the rug. Let's talk about that. Let's pull that apart. And I think Melissa was maybe even better at it than I was. She was maybe even more willing. I think it took me a little bit longer to just to completely be like, okay, every single episode of reactivity, triggering, or attitude change, or whatever psychic occurrence that brought us into the negative, every one of those we're going to pull apart. We're going to figure it out, and I'm going to take responsibility for it. And we came up with this, again, I think it was her, 100% responsibility for everything that happens to you and through you. It's a very, very high level of self-responsibility. So you take 100% responsibility for the things that come through you, your own attitudes, your own psychic material, your own, everything that comes up in your own psyche that leads to negative behavior. You take responsibility for that. And then you also take responsibility for everything that happens to you in life. Most people can't get that far because it was understood that we're in a larger psychic ecosystem, and that what happens to us is actually part of a greater pattern that we're already embedded in. And we just don't know it. And so when something happens to you, there's a larger state of causation there. And so it's your responsibility to figure out what that is. And now we recognize that you can't be responsible for everything that you're unconscious of. If you're unconscious of something, how do you take responsibility for that? But that as it becomes conscious, that comes, then that brings the responsibility with it. Or even if it is even if things are happening to you and you don't know how they're happening, you are conscious of the fact that you are somehow involved in it. Everything that happens to you, you're somehow involved in. And so you're going to go look for how you're involved and start to move in the direction of taking responsibility for it. So that's how we operated. And we operated with 100% transparency, never lying about anything, never lying about anything. Never sweeping anything under the rug, never lying about anything. And discussing, it's not always appropriate to talk about everything that shows up just immediately in the relationship. Like something just showed up, because sometimes, you'll have an autonomous complex, a part that will inject something into your mind, and you'll just go dump it on the other person, and you'll find out later, oh, that was something negative. That was something that was meant to trigger the other person. Uh-oh. I should have kept that to myself until I figured out what that was all about. So you don't necessarily say everything that comes to your mind as soon as it does, but you analyze it. And then after a while, if you realize, okay, this is an ongoing theme here, then yeah, you bring it up with your partner and you're like, okay, this is what's been going on. So this is how we were living. This is really an alchemical life. And we didn't even know it was alchemy at first. I hadn't even gotten deep enough into Jung to really understand the whole alchemical side of it. slant to it. I think that we got the alchemy thing maybe a year and a half in, something like that. We're like, oh, whoa, this is what we're doing. Wow, okay, that's what it is. And then we started looking at the alchemical principles and the hermetic material and the emerald tablet of Thoth and all that stuff. We're like, oh, wow, yeah, as above, so below. Okay, right, it makes sense. That's hold on jumping, blah, blah, blah. And we kind of just figured it out. But so anyway, so that's what was going on. And so now I'm on the other side of the whole thing. And like I was saying earlier, I don't have a degree in anything, but I do have a degree, because I found out later that almost no one's doing this. Even people who call themselves Jungians and have degrees, or professional therapists and people, they're not really doing this. They're still sweeping stuff under the rug. They're not using their relationships as alchemical vessels. And it's like, wow, okay, so, wow, this is more rare than we realized. And, and the more we talked to other people about it and stuff, the more we saw how they kind of were like, oh, yeah, right, that sounds scary. But it's not. And I was telling somebody just yesterday in an email that if you don't work on yourself, if you don't process your junk, and you don't do any self-analysis, and you don't work on yourself, and you don't mature yourself that way, well, then you're just going to be having all kinds of conflict in life, and you're not going to understand it, and you're just going to be blaming other people or blaming God or circumstances or whatever it is, and you're going to be suffering. And you're just going to be suffering without any remedy. Or you can do this in some form or another, and maybe not everybody does it in as artistic of a way as Melissa and I did, but you can do this, and then you can consciously go into the material, and it's sometimes disturbing to do so. But at least you're conscious of it, and you can pace yourself, and there's some level of control that you have over how much you process and when you process and all of that. And it just becomes part of your life work. And then you actually mature, you actually lessen your reactivity, you actually get closer to your gold, your alchemical gold, your genius, your vocation. You get closer and closer to it, you get more and more mature, you move into the royal, so to speak, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then you feel like, and then your life has a lot of meaning. And so what if it's hard? It's no harder than suffering unconsciously, but when you suffer unconsciously, you never evolve. So you just keep turning the same junk, whereas when you do this, you suffer because it's hard, but at least it gets better and easier and you evolve. So it's like, what's the better choice? Obviously, this is the better choice. But it gives people pushback, and so they go, or they're just not oriented that way, or it's just not where the consciousness of mankind is at the current moment. And so it's not that many people that are going to be oriented this way. I understand that. But I also can see that there are a lot of people out there who are, especially now, it's almost the perfect situation because the matrix system is crashing. And young people are looking at it and going, oh my God, I can't do it the way the boomers did it. I can't have my pension fund and have all the, buy property and have equity and, have my stuff paid off and kind of just, retire in Florida or whatever the American dream is or whatever. That's not available to me anymore. Those guys have burnt it all out and the parasites have stolen everything. And so they're realizing, oh, okay, why do I have to play that game? I don't really need to play that game. Maybe I should live a more alternative lifestyle. And maybe I don't need to be in the rat race and doing all that stuff. And so when you then you're like, oh, okay. You don't have to be so strivey and driven and exoteric, and you can be more esoteric and more inwardly directed. And so I think we're actually getting to a place now where more and more people, they're not consciously realizing what this all is, but unconsciously they're moving in the direction to where they're going to be in a place where being an alchemist is going to be more doable. And then the more people who can get serious about this and help each other, then we have a community, and then we can have conferences, and then we can have more podcasts. Now, I want to emphasize that I think that although the podcast and the digital thing is great and necessary because it connects people from all over the world. So I see that's a very big benefit, especially for a movement like this, because there's not that many of us around right now. So it's very important that we be able to locate each other anywhere on the planet. But at the same time, it's becoming more and more obvious that you have to be with other people physically. You have to be able to do that to get the full transference, you could say, in psychological terms, right? The object relationships, as you would say. And you have to be around people physically. Now, you can have this as an adjunct. You can even be around people maybe less than we used to, but you can't just not be around people and not have physical relationships with people. And, you just can't, we've gone already over the balance point. We've already gone too far to the digital, disconnected, remote life. We've gone too far in that direction. So we have to pull back. So I would always promote the idea of physical contact, of people finding each other in their localities, getting together, having relationships of all kinds with each other. The more of these intimate alchemical relationships, the better. But you can do this without. You can do this just being friends if the friends are capable of doing it. You don't have to have a so-called intimate. It's always intimate though. Everything's intimate, but you don't have to have a sexual relationship with somebody to be able to do this alchemy with them. So we have to be interfacing with each other physically. It's very important. And I know that a lot of people are getting lazy and they're like, I'm going to fly over there or go there or whatever, so much easier to just, no, that's not going to work. People have to get together physically. So now where am I in all this? I'm just, on the other side of this 12-year alchemical journey with Melissa, and I'm on the other side going, okay, where am I? What is this? Who's out there? And I'm like, okay, where we are is we're right at the very beginning of a wave of what I was saying before was the part of the human potential movement. We're right at the beginning of that wave. Because this level of the human potential movement is deeper and more serious than the levels that came before. Definitely. This is a more serious, deeper, more therapeutic, more committed kind of way of living. And so, we're at the beginning of that. So now here I am, and I'm like, okay, well, all I can do on the service side of things, and I'm moving into the royal mode. So I am moving into the service thing, and Melissa always had that too. So continuing on with her mission And so that's what this program is all about. Now, for anybody that's listening to the program, if you know anybody else that you think is on this path or is on this path, I would encourage you to share the program or my website or something like that so that we can get more people together. And I do want to have a conference. We're not ready for that right now. Right now, I'm getting a handful of people on a YouTube stream. Can't make a conference right now. I don't know of anybody who has a level of popularity or influence who is on the same wavelength as where Melissa and I were. Because I think the baby boomer generation, they're in their 70s and 80s now, and they have a different background and they're in a different place in life. And so I'm a Gen Xer, and it's the Gen Xers and the millennials that still have we're still evolving and can actually make stuff happen. And there's not enough of us online yet that have developed, that have the experience to be able to do something like have conferences. So I imagine that I imagine that potentially those people exist right now, but they're not really reaching out. They're not in social, missionary mode like I am now, although I'm doing it in a very calm way. And so I kind of have to do this and then activate them. But I noticed that there is like a lot of the true alchemists, they get very much into the magician archetype, and it makes them very isolated, and they kind of just go down into their cave, into their alchemical labs, and they're like, the public, no. And so, but we need them. And those of us who have been doing this long enough, we know that this is not a competitive sport. This is not a competitive thing. This is not about getting more likes, more views, more dollars in your pocket, whatever. That's not what this is about. This is about the evolution of human consciousness. This is a higher level calling. And competing with each other and all of that is just self-destructive to the whole thing, to ourselves and to the movement. And then we're also, even if we did want to be that way, we're already all such outsiders. There's no use to be that way. So we really need to be supporting each other. So there we go. That's some talk there on my path and where I am now with the movement and all of that. And now I want to talk to you guys. I want to read to you. I want to move into the kind of that's just me BSing there. And then now I kind of want to move more into the educational kind of aspect of things here. And I'm going to read to you, we're going to see how this goes. I'm going to read to you excerpts of a document by Sheila Foster called Archetypes of the Sacred Feminine. And you all may know that I'm very influenced by Robert L. Moore, the Jungian psychologist. He's really he's got degrees in many types of psychology. He's not with us anymore, but he's an amazing Jungian and missionary for the work. And Robert Moore had developed a model of the psyche that was coming from Carl Jung and Jung's Soror Mystica, we could call her, Toni Wolff, about the fourfold nature of the psyche, the quaternio, and the idea that there must be four main archetypal flows or patterns that are kind of running the psyche. That the sacred number would be 4, not 3. like the Christian Trinity, but 4. And Jung had all his reasons for that. And so Robert Moore kind of picked up where Tony Wolff started, and Jung thought later that it was the personality types, the typology, the feeling, sensing, intuition, thinking, those 4 personality traits, that was the fourfold. But Tony Wolff had something else going on, and Robert Moore pulled that out and developed that more, and he came up with what he thought was the 4, and it's the royal, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. And the royal is the queen and women, and the king and men. And then Moore also broke it down to the immature psyche and the mature psyche, or the childhood and the adult psyche. Now, he focused more on the male psyche, even though in his lectures he would always give you explanations for the female psyche too. He was more focused on the male psyche. I think the mythopoetic men's movement kind of grabbed him and said, we need your work, and he kind of went in that direction, even though he wasn't just a psychologist for men at all. But so his book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, is in the different men's groups and stuff that is a staple, and it's very useful to men and women to know that these 4 archetypes are running, and that to be able to problem solve your issues in life through this map. And then if you go looking for a clear explanation of such a map for the female psyche, you either have to kind of pull it out from little bits of what Robert Moore gave in lectures, or you have to find somebody else that's already done this, maybe somebody with more experience than I have, who could put something like that together. And so that there's people have done that. But what I found, probably it's been about 10 years now, I found Sheila Foster's PDF. It was part of one of her books that I can't find. She doesn't have this document or her book online anymore. I think she's still in private practice, but this document is floating around out there. It's online. You can go find it. The Archetypes of the Sacred Feminine by Sheila Foster. And she has taken Tony Wolff's idea, and I'm sure she's also looked at Robert Moore's work, and she put together what she thinks is a description of the light side and the shadow side of the 4 main archetypes. And that was also a big thing that Robert Moore did that was very important, is he didn't just talk about the principal features of an archetype. He showed its healthy version and its shadow version. So it's very, 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 very useful, and it hadn't been done before. Well, Sheila Foster did this with the feminine psyche, and she has what she calls the bright and shadow manifestations of these archetypes. So I'm putting together a workshop right now, and I went and I took excerpts of this document, and I put together what I'm going to read to you right now. And so I've also put the document on my website, and it's linked in the YouTube description. And so you can just grab that, and you can read the whole document because it's very good. Now, I do want to mention. I'm gonna change the screen here, change the setup here. Let's see what we got here, and let's go into this. I'm gonna read to this to you. So that's what the document looks like on the left there. Let me put myself in there. So let me go over to the. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna read it on my screen here. So here we go. Now, you're just gonna have to listen, and because I can't show it to you at the same time. So Sheila Foster Okay, Robert Moore makes, I'm going to say this one thing and I'm going to start reading. Robert Moore makes a distinction between the mother or father archetype and the royal, the king or the queen, because the mother and father come online early. You can be an adolescent and be a mother or father and have no real life experience, and a whole lot of your psychic patterning has not unfolded yet. So it's not really a fully mature version. The royal, the king or the queen, comes online in the second half of life. It comes online after age 35 at the earliest, in your 40s and 50s, and then you develop into the wise old man, wise old woman. But the royal is where it's basically the king energy is fatherly, and it is about establishing boundaries, and it is about protecting, or creating and protecting a kingdom, and establishing laws. And actually, he would say the warrior's more about boundaries and the king's more about laws and ordering the kingdom, but also nurturing in a masculine way, and mirroring and giving opportunities to people and pulling people up and these kinds of things. That's king energy. And it's community oriented. Whereas you can have father energy and it'll be oriented towards your little holon, your little family holon. And the queen is in the same way. It's the mother energy, but it's more oriented towards the community, towards the larger whole. So it's nurturing and all of that, but it's doing it at a more of a community level. So that's the difference between the mother and the queen, or the father and the king, but they're coming from the same basis. And so when I read to you Sheila Foster's kind of version of how she explains these archetypes, in this case, I'll tell you what, there's different names for them that are different, but this is her interpretation. And since these are archetypes that are ineffable, and so you just have to read different people's descriptions. You have to analyze it for yourself. You have to kind of figure it out on your own, because nobody has a perfect description of what these archetypes are and how they perform in the psyche. Okay, so now let me get to this. So here we go. Sheila Foster, Sacred Archetypes of the what is it? Sacred Archetypes of the, here we go. Sheila Foster, Sacred Archetypes. Oh, let me see, because I'm gonna cut this and repost this. Let me get what the actual title is. What is the actual title? It is called, because I can't see it right now, Archetypes of the Sacred Feminine. Thank you. Okay, Sheila Foster, Archetypes of the Sacred Feminine. These are excerpts from that document. The mother archetype represents a woman's capacity to give birth and sustain life, whether it's children and families, ideas, or projects. The mother calls us to embody and nurture our physical life and the life of the planet. One of the most important tasks women have as mothers is to allow their children and creations to become who and what they are, which may not be perfect, healthy, or beautiful in a conventional way, or may not fulfill our own images, ideas, or hopes. A mother's greatest challenges are to be present in her own body and to be in authentic contact with herself and her children. Mythically, we can recognize the mother as the Greek goddess Demeter in search of her lost daughter, the Madonna with the Holy Child, Kuan Yin, or the full-figured goddess figures found at the sites of ancient matriarchal cultures. As the shadow mother, she is Medea, who kills her children, Cinderella's wicked stepmother, or any abusive mother or woman who doesn't know how to mother because she was not well enough mothered herself. A self-sacrificing mother who sees herself as a victim is a shadow expression of the mother archetype. A woman in whom the mother archetype is dominant may feel that she only lives for others, taking care of others. A mother who lives her life vicariously through her husband or children can feel like a martyr, especially when others fail to meet her expectations. When the mother archetype is in shadow, a woman may not know or be able to take care of her own physical needs. She may have difficulty being in the body, forming attachments to others, or nurturing a child. She may feel incompetent or be narcissistic and deny her child their own individuality and experiences. The shadow aspect of the mother can cause a woman to be absent physically and or emotionally from her children, or be ineffectual, controlling, demanding, clinging, devouring, manipulative, or guilt-inducing. She may simply not know how to take care of her children on a very basic physical or emotional level due to her own lack of healthy mothering. The woman with strong mother energy must learn to say no, give up self-denial, and discover what her own needs and wants are. If she doesn't, she can unconsciously burden others, especially her children, to live out her dreams and longings. It is the dark mother energy that is with her when something is dying, and she gives death when necessary with consciousness and compassion. Her presence is felt when an abortion is called for, a marriage is ending, or when an idea, a dream, a project, or some conditioned internal belief structure no longer works, serves growth, or sustains life. She is the goddess of entropy when conditions move from order to disorder. The mother is the embodiment of paradox. She is both the womb and the tomb. It's very, very deep. And that's only a portion. I mean, there's like a few pages for each of these archetypes. So I'm just kind of giving you a teaser as to what's in this paper. The Amazon. So the Amazon is in Robert Moore's system, he calls it the warrior. And Sheila is using Tony Wolf's term, the Amazon. Let me just get a little water here. The bright Amazon is often associated with Artemis, the huntress. Tony Wolff, Carl Jung's Sora Mystica, gave this name to women who are independent, unconventional, and highly capable of making their way in the world. They are adventurous, often traveling into the territory traditionally occupied by men. Artemis is also often depicted with her bow and arrow and animals, a woman of the wilds, connected to nature and comfortable with solitude. The Amazon woman usually places personal ambition above relationship, is often a career woman, a woman who fights to liberate herself and all women from patriarchal domination. She wants to and does make a difference in the world. The bright Amazon woman of today is independent, self-contained, adventurous, and attachment-oriented. She loves to accomplish things and is able to step into the world with great confidence in ways and places that have been traditionally male. Being successful in whatever she does, especially her vocation in the world, is important to her, and she may choose a public life. Often her work is more important than her relationships, and she tends to be more impersonally related to others than the mother or lover. On the shadow side, she may use personal relationships as a vehicle for getting ahead professionally, and she may deal with life's complexities in a more masculine than feminine way. She is a planner, a strategist, a doer, and she takes pride in what she does. Taking time out to rest or do nothing may be a challenge for the Amazon woman. Sportswomen, businesswomen, politicians, judges, economic or scientific achievers fit the profile of the Amazon. Trekking the Himalayas, running a marathon, marching for peace, dog sledding in the Arctic, speaking out for justice, joining the Peace Corps, or serving in the military and going to war would be things an Amazon woman would do. The Amazon cultivates the courage, heart, and strength to go beyond her known capacities, step into unknown territories, prepares herself well for the tasks ahead, and is confident that she will cultivate the skills and the knowledge that she needs to be successful. She knows how to focus on goals and outcomes and be clear about what is needed to achieve her outcome before she takes action. She very competently takes care of what needs to be done to support her life and that of her family. She makes money and she pays her taxes and bills on time. She takes pride in her skills and abilities to negotiate the outer world and has no problem asking for a pay raise or filing a complaint. She is not fearless. She is simply willing to meet her fear and keep going forward. Women who have a dominant lover or medial dimension really need the help of the Amazon to help them take their gifts into the world. If they cannot access their own inner Amazon, they can hire an Amazon woman to help them. So that's the female warrior. The medial is the magician in Robert Moore's system. It is the medial within that sends a woman on a search for knowledge of all kinds: spiritual, metaphysical, Gnostic, mystical, psychological, intellectual, scientific, genealogical, and technical. Paradoxically, the medial wants and seeks to know, yet ultimately, through life's initiations, falls in love with not knowing. Medial women are drawn towards the unknown, the outer edges of conventionality and the familiar. They may be terrified, excited, compelled, and enchanted all at once. Medial women are seekers and keepers of esoteric knowledge and wisdom, and they value gnosis, direct mystical experience. The medial dimension helps women realize eventually that they are that which they have been seeking. All women have this energy available to them in some form. At its most basic level, it is their intuition. The woman with strong medial energy is highly intuitive and loves to learn and understand how things work. She may be a healer, shaman, ritual maker, mystic, teacher, researcher, visionary artist, songwriter, musician, poet, priestess, or police detective. She may also use her medial gifts in business or the world of high technology, such as computers, science, forensics, medical research, photography, filmmaking, or digital arts. She gives you a lot of examples. The power-driven shadow of the medial can compromise her integrity to manipulate, control, or violate others. No one is invulnerable to the seduction of power. The darkest shadow expression of the medial is a woman who uses black magic, satanic ritual, sorcery, mind control, or curses and spells to control, manipulate, hurt, or even kill others. The bright medial woman serves truth and assists others by helping them find meaning in their life experience, especially the difficult ones. She holds sacred space for them when they make their way and may offer silence, healing, dream work, ritual, art, poetry, music, song, dance, ecstatic trance, guided inner journeys, astrological readings, channel material, or teachings. She can be evocative, provocative, and inspiring, as well as a disturbing bringer of chaos when she's not self-aware. She can also intoxicate and entrance others and take them into sublime experiences, whether it be through a painting, a song, dance, writing, or trance. And she can lead them into harm's way if her intentions are power-driven. It all depends on how conscious she is and where her devotion lies. Okay, now the last one is the lover. The archetypal lover is the high priestess of Eros, the feminine principle of relatedness and relationship. The lover seeks relationships, union and communion with people, animals, nature, the mystery, and the divine beloved. We can recognize the lover as Aphrodite, Venus, Inanna, Lilith, Ishtar, Mother Teresa, the sacred prostitute, and every woman who is a yogini, tantrika, or priestess of the heart. She is also Marilyn Monroe, Circe, who turns her lovers into swine, the addict whose cravings keep her dancing with ever-hungry ghosts, and the sexually or emotionally abused woman who flees from intimacy. The shadow lover also appears as any woman with a distorted body image who may also have food issues, is perhaps a compulsive eater, bulimic or anorexic. She could also be the mistress, the prostitute, the other woman to the man with the motherly wife, or the woman who compromises her integrity to keep her lover or partner. The lover loves to love, loves to be in love, and is passionate about many things. She lives in and from her heart. Relationship is her primary calling, whether it is to a person, group, or place, an animal, the ocean, or the divine beloved. She may be an ecstatic who wants no limits or boundaries and wreaks havoc without them, as well as a woman whose tolerance for bliss and joy can be boundless. On the shadow side, her capacity for pain, suffering, depression, and despair can also be boundless if she's not learned skills for working with her emotional issues. She can be addicted to misery and lack of love, and highly skilled in proving that she is not worthy of love. The lover cultivates openness when she feels good, or when wounded, she can shut her heart down and be inaccessible. The lover draws our attention to beauty of all kinds, as she surrounds herself with as much beauty as possible, whether it's the natural world, her home, where she hangs out, or what she likes to do. There is always an element of beauty present. Lover women may also be drawn to the business of or avocation of beauty in some way, as artists, musicians, singers, songwriters, actors, fashion designers, interior designers, chefs, gardeners, estheticians, or hairstylists. Women with strong lover energy may get involved in professions that are oriented around relationships and service, such as psychotherapy, healing, pastoral work, ministry, Peace Corps, or working with the elderly, disabled, or animals. Helping others in one way or another as volunteer, friend, or professional is often central to the life of the lover. Her capacity to delight others is equaled by her capacity to lead them astray. In the service of love, she can experience clear seeing from her heart, and in the service of shadow, when her Amazon is not strong, she also has the capacity to be blinded by love. Deep, intimate, loving contact is highly developed in the bright lover, and lack or loss of contact can take her down the deep black abyss of despair and hopelessness. When this lover capacity is in shadow, if she is willing and truly committed to love, a woman can learn how to dive deeply into the ocean of darkness and return with pearls. So that is those are some excerpts from Sheila Foster's Archetypes of the Sacred Feminine, and I've linked the document in the description below, a link to my website where I've put that, and I've also put Robert Moore's lectures up there, because Robert Moore's lectures are now totally public. Me and a bunch of other people bought like $800 worth of them, like a big chunk of the catalog years ago, but now they're floating out all over the place. So I just put those out there so you can find those. Just look at the YouTube description. Now, let me just say one more thing, and then I'm going to look at your comments here. You'll notice, if anybody's looked at Robert Moore's system, you'll notice that those descriptions of these female archetypes are very well crafted for the feminine psyche, and those are written by a woman, a very deep Jungian, who understands this. And so those are very good descriptions. But you'll notice also that those can be applied to men as well, because these archetypes, these four archetypes of queen, warrior, or mother, father, warrior, magician, lover, are in men and women. And women have an animus and men have an anima. So each has a masculine and feminine side. So we're all channeling these master archetypes, and then they just manifest in ways that are appropriate for the masculine or feminine psyche. And so you can take everything that was in there about the Amazon, about knowing what she wants, and going and getting it and setting goals for herself and making her way in the world and being successful, that just applies perfectly to men too. Even if she doesn't apply as much aggression, perhaps, still she applies plenty of aggression, and it fits perfectly with men. And so that's why you can also read Robert Moore's book if you're a woman, and you can just apply it to yourself also. Or the medial, the magician, the problem solver, and the one who takes in knowledge and figures things out. That's the same thing in men and women. Or the lover, the relatedness function, same thing in men and women. And like I described earlier, the king or queen mode. So you can read those documents and not only apply them to yourself, no matter what your birth sex is, but you can understand your partner and understand other people much more deeply when you understand these things. And then you can problem solve your own pathologies. And she described right in there, and Robert Moore does that in his system too, is that, this is what the archetype looks like when it's in the light, and this is what it looks like when it's in the shadow, right? And so right there, it's just a beautiful and simple and elegant way to understand your own energies, your own libido energies, and to problem solve your own pathologies and where you're weak, where you're undeveloped or overdeveloped, let's just say imbalanced. And so so I've been using both Robert Moore's system and that document for a long time now. So let me say hi to everybody on the chat. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Oh, well, thank you for the condolences about Melissa. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be hearing about Melissa probably for the rest of my life. And everything that I do is dedicated to Melissa. And you can see the movie about her, melissamarimovie.com. And right now it's being shopped to film festivals, so I can't just put it out yet, but you can just send me a message or a text saying you want the link, and boom, I'll send it over to you. Yes. Oh, Theo says that it looks good and you'll have to replay. Yes, absolutely. Anytime you want to, buddy. Psyche's Alchemical Laboratory. Yes, hello there. Hi. I don't know your name. If you could tell me your name. I saw you saw my comment on your YouTube channel, and I'm very, very impressed. I'm very impressed with what you're doing over there. And so if anybody else is on the chat, you can look at this woman's YouTube page, Psyche's Alchemical Laboratory, with underscore that separates the three words there. And she's putting her own alchemical process and what's coming up for her and her challenges and everything as she's studying Jungian psychology and whatever else she's studying, and she's talking about it and she's sharing it. And she's so naturally talented in this direction, and I'm really glad that she's over here hanging out with us. So she says, I feel I need to find an Amazon woman to teach me. I resonate with all of that, but it's been a challenging embracing my wild feminine in a full expression. And then you said that you liked, yeah, you're welcome. Please tell me your first name so we can refer to you. Yeah, so the wild Amazon, right? And so there's always going to be, how wild. You just have to. That's the thing with all these archetypes, is they're all wild. And Robert Moore talks a lot about this. That he uses, Freud used the term libido to mean sexual energy. But the Jungians use libido to mean any archetypal energy, any shadow or any archetypal material that's moving through you, any drives, any impulses, what's driving you. Lauren, hi Lauren, great, thank you, and it's really nice to meet you. So libido is just any psychic energy, and so. Libido energy is wild, and Robert Moore calls it the dragon, and it's dragon energy. And so in the Chinese system, it's qi, or it's Kundalini in the Hindu esoteric systems, and so that stuff is that's energy, and that's coming through you. And depending on your patterning, depending on your personality type and your family patterning and your genetics and all of this, depending on what your patterning is, you're going to be channeling these archetypes, with a certain amount of energy, or in this direction or that direction or whatever. And they're also changing their flow as you mature. So this energy, though, in its pure form, Robert Moore always says it's like 220 volts. It's just, and this is when you get grandiosity or ego inflation, right? So when someone is really getting high on their own supply, they are just pumping this energy, and it's just taking them over. That's when the energy is wild. And that's when it's very hard for the ego to contain it. And this is why you get people who get famous and then they have a fall from grace, because they start sleeping with people, or they start abusing their power, or whatever it is. And the energy gets very, very wild. And they have to, hide the wildness of it. Like we have the Epstein files now that are coming out. These are all people who were able to just channel their grandiosity without any social boundaries. They had their own little club where they can channel the wildness of this energy. And so this energy is naturally wild. And so, but the thing is that you have to find a balance for this energy where it can serve you, right? The Jungians talk about your vocation, your daimon, right? So your daimon is like your soul code. It's your soul vocation. And let me move this. It's your soul vocation, and it's your soul code. It's your soul direction. It's your goal. It's your destiny, and your daimon uses these archetypal energies, and for you to achieve what you're supposed to achieve, these things need to flow. But at the same time, you can't blow up the world, right? And you don't want to blow yourself up, and you don't want to blow your relationships up and blow the world up. And so you have to be able to balance these energies. And so it's really all about balance. And, so if we're talking about the Amazon, this ability to use aggression and use focus and set goals and meet goals, and all that warrior type stuff, then, and if you feel that that's not really coming online, or you're having a hard time being able to set boundaries and be able to do that kind of stuff, then you just have to get involved. First of all, you should start to, usually like in Jungian fashion, you should find the goddess. You find the Greek or Judeo-Christian, images, and you start taking in that material and start to try to get connected to it. But you can always find these Amazons all throughout culture, in fiction, all over the place, all over culture. So you find those culture heroes, whether fictional or real culture heroes that you feel connected to, and then you try to imbibe some of their energy, right? The best thing to do is to, like you're saying there, have an Amazon woman in your life that you can just be around to mentor you, or that you can just kind of get some flow off of her, get some juice off of her. And but you have to, if you can't get that, you just got to get it in any way you want. And then you start doing things that Amazon women would do, right? And you just start small. And so maybe that's signing up for some martial arts classes, right? Or maybe that's getting a job or part-time or volunteer work in a way that puts you around, women who have this mode, police officers or emergency response people or whoever it is that is using that, people who are using that mode, business women, whoever it is, however you want to sort of get that juice, and put yourself around those people, and you just have to kind of just realize, okay, this is a modality. It's running through certain people very powerfully. I can sort of take some of that in. I can learn from them, and then you can start testing it in yourself and practicing it with yourself. And if you're a writer or something, then you can write about characters that express that archetype, or you can journal about it and sort of just do active imagination and fantasy about it. So these are all ways of doing that. And then when you find the shadow aspects of it, which are either the archetype is not being used enough so that it's dormant, or it is being used, but it's being used in a passive-aggressive way, or it's being directed at yourself, and you're being, like in Robert Moore's system, he says the shadow warrior is sadomasochistic. But it's so if it goes too far on the active side, it becomes sadistic. It enjoys hurting people. It enjoys destroying things. It enjoys being, going too far, being an overkiller. And then, but on the passive side, he says that it's inward moving, and you end up destroying yourself. So there's a masochistic, self-destructive, inward-moving flow to the energy. So yeah, if you look at Robert Moore's work, and again, look in the YouTube description, because I put all his lectures in the link that I put there, or a whole bunch of them, and the Sheila Foster document. So if you take that material in, then you'll really get a feel for the four archetypes. And then you can see already that just reading these descriptions and stuff, really, it's not that difficult. It's just about getting your head around it, and you're like, okay, it makes sense. And then you can kind of see what the shadow manifestations of it are, and it makes sense. And then you can just kind of it's one of the coolest areas, I think, of Jungian psychology is Robert Moore's system, and anyone else that's kind of done the fourfold modeling, because it's just so elegant, and it's just like there's so much you can do with it. And then the rest of Jungian psychology is just so broad, and there's so much material in there, and it's so kind of odd and everything at first, that this is Moore is very kind of scientific about things. So I think that's very, very useful, and a very great way to get into Jungian psychology is through Robert Moore with Sheila Foster's work, and there's other women too, of course. Let's see. Hi, Shelley. You're just tuning in. Can one woman possess aspects of? Yes. So when we're done tonight, go back and listen to the whole explanation where I read through it, or just, like I said in the description, grab the original document from Sheila Foster and just read it yourself, because I was just reading excerpts. It's like a 33-page document. And yes, you are channeling all four of those archetypes. You're channeling the mother, the magician, the warrior, and the lover, or what the Amazon and the medial is how it's described in Tony Wolf's system. And then, like I said earlier, the mother, when she matures, she becomes the queen, and the father, when he matures, he becomes the king. And that's a more community-oriented modality rather than a family or individual-oriented modality. And so yes, you're channeling them all. You have, if we were to just simplify all of psychology down to this model, which you can't really, but you could for a while and get a lot done with that. If you were to just say, yes, we all have the royal, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. And these four modes of libido, and they're flowing through all of us. And then some of them are more active than others, depending on what your personality type is and where you are in life and all of that. And so some people are going to have a very strong warrior function, and some people just aren't going to have one, and they're never going to have a super strong warrior. But they just have to have enough of it to not get, to be able to get what they need to do, what they need to do in the world, and not get rolled over by other people. Or the magician, the medial, the ability to be able to use your head and problem solve and take in information and make correlations and be your own scientist, or be your own mystic, or be your own doctor, and or your own priest, and not have to outsource these functions all the time to other people. And so when you're always relying on somebody else or some system to serve one of these roles for you because you don't have enough warrior, you don't have enough magician, then that's pathological, and you're always dependent, and then you always have this constant neediness and fear and all of that going on. So the medial, the magician, she has to be able to use her cognitive functions to be able to figure things out. And this is kind of an archetypal, or let's say typical, shadow function for women in patriarchal civilization. The men sort of took the role of the protector, the warrior, and the scientist, the shaman, the priest, and that kind of stuff, the one who figures things out, the alchemist, whatever. And women were allowed to be mothers and allowed to be lovers, but they weren't so much encouraged to be warriors or magicians. And now, so it's very typical that women wouldn't have a whole lot of access to their warrior or a whole lot of access to their magician, their medial. But now, where we are now, it's necessary for women to develop those flows and to be able to use them in their life. And so it's an easy temptation to just sort of let men figure it out for you. And it's so typical that women, don't know what happened, how to change a tire on a car, or, always relying on doctors and all this is very kind of typical woman type shadow stuff. And so, but also men, they have the problem with the lover, right? Because that was handled by women. It was the women that were more relational and that were able to bond more and able to feel the eros dimension more, and compassion and empathy. These were all female qualities that women were allowed to have, and they weren't qualities that men were taught to have. And then when you also have a strong warrior online, it actually pushes the lover down. It's difficult to find, if you don't have this in your family, this is the most beautiful thing, is when you have the warrior and the lover online together. And this is actually what Robert Moore describes when he talks about the royal, the king or the queen. And that's when you get to the point in your life where you got your warrior is online, and it's not sadomasochistic or turned off or anything. It's there and it's operating as it needs to. You got your magician online, and he or she is operating as she needs to. And then you got your lover online. You got your compassion, you got your relational function, you got your ability to feel and your sensation and all of that. You got your lover online. When you got those three things online, then you can move into the royal. Then you can start actually working with community and helping people and being a mentor and being a community leader or influencer, mentor, whatever we want to call it. So you can do, and that's the appropriate thing, because you've got these other archetypes balanced enough so you're not going into the community and dumping your garbage on people, and you're balanced. And so then that passes off on other people. And so unconsciously, then you serve as the example, and then younger people get to come around you and they get to feel what balance feels like. And then they have that model for when they get older, and then they can grow into balance. And so it's all about balancing these things and working them out. And like I've done with that Solutio chart, I'll pull that up. Now, everything I'm saying here, I've been incorporating into this Solutio system that I've been developing. And I've been showing this, I keep working on new pieces of art and stuff. But I've been showing this, let me find this, the 8 quadrants. I've been showing this image lately. And so this actually takes Robert Moore's system, but it also takes Ken Wilber's system. And then my own work, me and Melissa's work, and it kind of puts it all into one thing. So you get the shadow manifestations on the left, and then you have the bright or the healthy manifestations on the right. And in the center, on the one on the right, you can see I put homo bilancia in there, which is Melissa's term for balanced mankind. So when you have all these things, when you have these things balanced, let me put my when you got these things balanced, then you got a mature psychospirituality. Let me see what Lauren said. That makes sense. Great insight. I've never done deep dive into these archetypes. Yeah, this is going to be great for you to embody their energy from this perspective. This would be great for you, Lauren, because you're very talented naturally at this, and you'll take to it very easily, and so be very useful. If you get Robert Moore's book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, or listen to the lectures. The whole thing, he reads it, or any of his workshops that are about that. And then read the Sheila Foster document, and then just start, thinking about it and drawing it and working with it, and it'll all make sense, and you'll be able to really see where things are at and everything. I think you're going to really like that. It's been a huge influence on me and Melissa. So now you've got that. So we've got that there, and now let me move into. Let's see where we are. If anybody wants to call, let's see. Okay, I'm looking at something on my phone here. If anybody wants to call in, you're free to call in. Just look in the description or solutiopodcast.com, and the phone number's there. Send me a text, and then I'll call you right back if anybody wants to call in. But otherwise, we'll just use the chat. It's up to you. Well, I'm glad, Shelley, that was an excellent explanation, because, it's a challenge to describe these things in a clear way that will translate. So let me go back to my notes here for the show, because I'm figuring out how to do this podcast and stuff, and how to organize a show, and how to give you guys stuff that's personal but also educational, and you can always go back when we're done here in a little while, and you can watch from the beginning. And because I talked about my my path with Melissa, and I didn't talk about. I was going to talk about I think I just have to keep. There's going to be the right time where I'm going to talk about my grieving process with her passing and everything and all of that. Let me see if I should talk about that now, if anybody doesn't want to call in. I talked about the alchemical movement, and you're always going to hear me talking about this. I'm always going to be very encouraging to you guys to take this work seriously and become sort of experts in your own right, and then finding other alchemists around you and bringing us together, and having your own whatever you want to do, having your own podcast, your own reading rooms, or whatever it is, however it works. you have to accept that it's a very small amount of people who are doing this, that's where we are right now. But there are a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of people who are very advanced who are just hiding away. They're just tucked in. And so that's going to be one thing, is to try to pull them out. And then there's people who are naturally advanced, but who are just younger and haven't, they're in their 20s. And usually, sometimes people get into this in their 20s. That happens. I've met plenty of people that do get into this in their 20s because they got a lot of junk. They had difficult childhoods, and they realize, I got to work on myself. And so there are people, but it kind of typically shows up later in your 30s or maybe 30s is kind of where, but some people show up even later. People like in their 50s, and they're like, I got to do this. So there's advanced people that need to be pulled out of their caves. And I'm constantly working on these people. I know some of these people, and especially the women. I'm always, when I find women that are, I was going to tell you guys this, because this whole thing with Melissa, I was totally initiated into the sacred feminine through this relationship with her. I was totally initiated into this. I was being a musician, a touring musician, band manager, and all of this. I had my warrior turned on, and I was looking at all the red pill stuff, which turns your warrior on. And then I was becoming more of a magician. I was getting into real estate law, and then I found the psychology and all of this, and that was all turned on. And my relational capacity wasn't that great. I had relationships that were, lasted a few years, 3-4 years, few of those. But the one I had with Melissa was 12 years. And I had never had a relationship with another alchemist. And Melissa was as just deep and courageous and mystical and natural, and she just, everything about the archetype of the mystic woman, that was her. And by the time I met her, I was 43 and she was 50. So she already had a lot of experience in life and everything. And I just watched her and was around her, and I watched her move through these stages, and she had to have her warrior energy turned on for a long time. She was in her lover mode in early life, but then her warrior turned on. She had to protect herself. And then she had moved around a lot and had been in a lot of abusive relationships and stuff. And so she had learned to turn the warrior on. But then when she got with me and she was safe and everything it moved into this other modality, then her lover could come back online. And because we were doing this magician work, her medial function and her muse function, which is something that wasn't mentioned in that document. Maybe it's in the full document, but I didn't find it or pull it out. That Robert Moore talks about that is that the muse function of the medial, the magician woman, how she can use that as a way to basically be the channel for magician energy into a man. And Melissa did that for me too. So, and I just being around her and being with her, and then having this eye and this want to understand her psyche, and being her best friend, her lover, her therapist, all of this at once. It just so much put me in touch with the sacred feminine. And now it's like I am so attuned to it and so able to see it and feel it. And on any of these channels, whether it's the mother, the queen, the medial, the Amazon, the lover, on any of those channels, I can really tune into it, and I can really grok it. I can really get the download, and I can just that was from being with Melissa all those years. And so I'm like, and most men do not get this. They don't get this. And even when you just go into, like, a lot of men in midlife move into their lover. This is typical, that women move into their warrior when they get to be in their 40s, 50s, and men move into their lover, or they should. But still, they don't get fully tuned in to the real essence of the sacred feminine, of the pure archetypal energies themselves, and really be able to kind of feel that and know that as gnosis. And I got that out of being with her. And so it's like I can read a document like that Sheila Foster document there, and I can listen to those descriptions of these qualities of the feminine and of women, and I can just be like, yep, I know what that is. I know, and I know in here. Now, I'm not a woman, and I cannot feel them, subjectively like a woman can, but I have a little bit of it. It's like I've smelled those roses. I've been in touch with those energies. And so I'm so thankful for that. I mean, Melissa did so much for me. She just totally opened me up and matured me. And that's another aspect of being on the alchemical life path, is that you, and women will do this for the masculine too, when they do this work, is you get a much deeper, more sacred understanding, or it's not understanding, it's experience of these sacred energies in yourself, and that makes you more whole, and that makes you more mature, and that makes life a lot deeper and a lot just moves you more towards your potential. You want to be able to have that experience, and most people are just not getting that. They could be married for 50 years and they're just not getting that because they're not doing this kind of work. So the advantages of doing this are so great. So let's see. Let me go back to the comments here. You are, if anybody wants to tell me their names, I'd love that. But SA5014, I've been consuming material but stuck in application. I'm very isolated. I have difficulty in small talk, trauma survivor, and neurodivergent, but been in freeze state for over 5 years. Oh my. So, you've been consuming material but stuck in application, or do you mean you're stuck in the just the studying of it and trying to learn and imbibe all this material? Yes. Let's just kind of pull that apart piece by piece, and you can add more to it as I talk about it here. But this is one of the functions, Robert Moore talks about this, of the magician. And when you get into magician, now you need to get into magician mode to problem solve your way out of your trauma, out of your reactivity, right? You need to be able to be your own doctor, be your own medicine woman and medicine man. You have to be able to do that. So you have to move into magician mode. But then when you do, it naturally it's hermetic. It's the hermit. It's the hermetic mode. And so it puts you in your hermitage, and you go into your hermitage and you close the door and you just kind of sit in there and you study and you pull back from the world. And that's natural. The archetype does that. It has that property to it. And you need to do that. I almost went, after I had my big crash when I was, it's like 20 years ago, I had my big crash and I wanted to move to Holland, because I had all these Dutch friends and I had toured there a lot, and I was like, I love Holland, I want to move there. And I set myself up so that I could move there. And then at the last moment I said, no, this is not the right thing, because I need to work on myself, and I'll be totally extroverted if I do that. And I'll just be trying to figure out how to make a living and meeting people and all of that and learning the language. I don't want to be in that mode. I need to be in inner mode. I need to be in hermit mode, magician mode. And so I made the right decision and I stayed, and I went into that, and that put me on this path. Not as exciting sort of physically, but very exciting internally. But so yeah, so that is part of the high knowledge level, but wouldn't know by my life state at current mode. That's okay. My problem is everything I looked into shows me more evil. Oh, red-pilled stuff. And I don't like the world, so even though I believe in myself and capacities, I'm craving another dimension, trying to, oh, wonderful. Okay, well, I can help you. Because this is what I focus on all the time. Go to the YouTube channel for this channel, Shadow Tech Alchemy, and look at the video called 2 Paths for the Red-Pilled Initiate. 2 Paths for the Red-Pilled Initiate. So, so that video will explain, oh, you're turning 50, already accomplished most of the basics of life. Okay. That video will show you this whole thing of this red pill thing. You know, when I had my psychological dark night of the soul, at the same time I figured out that the whole 9/11 thing, and that was an inside job, and all the corruption and stuff and all the evil in the world. So I have also 20 years of experience looking at all that stuff. And that is I would say that is a necessary initiation. Not everybody has to go so deep into it. Everybody kind of has to get to the point on this path where they recognize, where you put on the glasses, like in John Carpenter's movie, They Live, or you take the red pill from the Matrix, and now you can see the outer version of the shadow. This is how all of our repressed shadow material eventually gets projected out into the world, finds its way into society, into culture, into the institutions, into the body. It finds its way into everything. And then we have this shadow-infected world, and like we have right now. And we're in a natural civilizational cycle where this civilization is, you know, it had its peak, and now it's kind of tapering down now. It's moving into its winter time. And there's a lot of functions of the civilization that are trying to fight back, just like a person who crashes and has, you know, hits rock bottom, but then they don't want to take an accounting of their life, and they just want to blame, and they want to keep, you know, going outward. And so there is no remedy, there's no healing until they turn it around into themselves. So the whole civilization, this extroverted, outward moving, sort of domineering empire that we've had, that's all hitting a wall now. And all the parasitic psychopaths and all these people that have just sucked the economy dry and all of that, it's not even nearly as bad as it could be. We're not third world yet. So, but it's going in that direction. And so that has to be allowed to happen, right? That has to be allowed to happen. That's the life cycle of a civilization. I saw once like an animated film that showed, it was like 3,000 years of different empires rising and falling. It's like a 5-minute document or 5-minute video, and you can just see these different colors kind of rising. You saw Rome start in Italy and then burning back down again. You saw the Byzantine Empire, and you saw the Mongols and the Huns and all the different tribes and empires and stuff. You saw all those kind of expanding and decreasing, and expanding and decreasing over hundreds and thousands of years. And so now you have the you know, what started with the British Empire, and now it became the American Empire and all that. You have that now. You know, it's decreasing now. It's not a unipolar world more, it's a multipolar world. It's moving into, and everyone's kind of fighting it, and there's all this shadow stuff happening. So let it happen. It has to happen. You don't have to be, you can't stop that, and it's natural. Nature doesn't want it to be stopped. It has to go the way it's going. What you can do is you can pull yourself out of your own little micro apocalypse, right? You can heal yourself, and then you can get with other people who are at the cutting edge of human evolution. And so you can be around other healthy people, you can get healthy yourself, and then you can obtain gnosis, and then you can share that with the world in some way. for people, you can help people who are younger. You can, however you want to do it. You can, and what I've been talking about earlier is, getting alchemists to wake up and help each other, start doing stuff, having conferences, and start a movement here of people who are serious about working on themselves, who recognize that the shadow of the world is a manifestation of all of us with all our own repressed shadow energy. And we have to now go in and start metabolizing all of that. That's our task as alchemists. That's what we do. We're shadow workers on the inside. And so you need to know about the external shadow. You need to be able to see it so you don't fall into it or get sucked into it or whatever. But you don't have to take it on. I've been listening to Bernardo Kastrup a lot. He's like my favorite philosopher now. And he was talking about this whole idea that we have in our civilization of having to hold the responsibility of the world on your shoulders and all of that. Everything is working out the way it's supposed to be. And all you're supposed to do is just find where your energy flow is, and then get your ego aligned with your big S self in Jungian terms. If you look at Edward Edinger, the ego self axis, get that lined up and start doing what your vocation is, right? And let nature work it out the way she's gonna work it out. Do your little thing and don't worry about all of that. Nature has winter times. During the winter, everything dies. Nature doesn't abhor death. Right? Like I was talking about earlier when I was reading the mother archetype from the Sheila Foster document. She's the womb and the tomb, right? Everything comes out of the zero, out of the pleroma, and everything returns to the zero, returns to the pleroma, right? And these happens in cycles. So we have to allow those cycles to happen. So get your education about red pill world so you can stay away from, the psychopaths and all their medical yuck and all that kind of stuff, and their economic traps and all that. You need to be aware. Their false flag terrorism and all that. You need to be aware of all that. But you don't need to be focused on that constantly. That becomes a distraction away from the work that you need to do on yourself. And I got more to give you here in a sec. Lauren says 100% game for planning. Oh, wonderful. That's great. Or even an online one over the course of a weekend. Yes. But the online one, I'm into all those things, but I'm really into the old school conferences, even if they're small. Doing the old school conferences, people get together, they get to meet each other and hang out for the weekend and all of that. That's the way it always was done, and that's the way it's got to go. We've gone way over the line with the digital thing, and it's just like, we got to go back to, I'm going to be giving presentations here in Austin. I'm like preparing myself now to do that and start talking to the public and being public and all of that. So I really want to go in that direction, but I'm into anything really, is where alchemists can get together. Let's see here. Trying to keep up with you guys here. Yes, you are SA514. Can you give us your first name? That would be great. That you're craving to find a human connection. I joined when you were speaking about balance. Sometimes small shifts can change a lot. Yeah, go back and listen to the whole thing when we're done. Sherry. Hi, Sherry. Okay, great. Sherry Ann. So, Sherry, I want to say more stuff. Do you go by Sherry Ann? That's like a southern name. Or do you go by Sherry? Would be nice to see more community forming from YouTube content. Yeah, there are people on YouTube. There's alchemists on YouTube. A lot of people are still kind of, when people get to a certain level of knowledge and experience, a lot of people, especially the Americans, they try to monetize it. And this was kind of a dream. It was kind of like, we've had all these different, you could be famous as a this, or be famous as a that, and you could be, it's going to be this, or you're going to be successful, at least, let's say. You can be a nurse, or you're going to be this, or you're going to be a rock star, and all this. And there's these different waves of cultural memes, and people try to jump on them. And it's like, making a living for yourself on YouTube is one of those waves. And it's burnout. That if there was a time where, a few people, 1% of people could do that are good, but the rest can't. And so it's kind of like people trying to do that is still kind of I'm like, whatever on that. But hi, let's see here. I got more stuff to say to Sherry Ann. But Sandra, hi, sweetheart. Thank you, Colin. Technical difficulties here. Melissa's sister. I believe a woman can have aspects of each archetype as history has shown. My sister was a warrior, as am I, in my own quiet gnosis way. Yes, no, yeah, it was just what we were saying, that all those archetypes are running through all people. And you have to kind of find which ones are active or overactive or underactive. And yes, Melissa was, like you guys all are, your warriors, your lovers, and your magicians. Both of you guys were into figuring stuff out and studying and reading about health and spirituality and all of that, about gnosis and knowledge, and you're both that kind of person. And you're both warrior, and had to develop your toughness. And you both have you're both lovers, total lovers. Both of you are, and Melissa was. And Melissa got, like I was saying, got a chance to get her lover back online, when she was with me, because she didn't have to protect herself. But so Shelley, agreeing with these insights, Colin. In 2020, I went into what I call monk mode. I became a hermit, a devout inward seeker. Yes, I did it too. Melissa did it. We've all done it. We're alchemists, and so we've all done that. We go into our into our hermitage. Lauren says, agreed, me too. I do want things happening in real life. Yes, of course. Yeah, we have to have that. And and let's see, what else do we have? There's lots on YouTube, and that's when I'm at for everything, nothing. Oh yeah, well, how is best to connect? Well, right now we have to do it through YouTube. That's how we have to do it now. And, but, I used to do these Zoom calls every other week, Melissa and I. There's some of them on the Shadowtech Alchemy. If you guys ever want to look at some of our old Zoom calls, they're up there on the Shadowtech Alchemy YouTube page. And you can listen to Melissa, even though I had to learn not to, take over the conversation. But, yeah, the hermit thing, right. So we're all on the same page there. All of us, we all know the hermit thing. We all know about getting into the cave, and we know all about that. And there's a time for that, and that's necessary. It's necessary. And so I can't pull you out of the cave before it's your time to come out of the cave. But it can also be, you can also really, you got to get out of the cave at some point. And you can start by getting on YouTube. You can start by coming on to shows like this, and or getting on Zoom calls. Oh, I know I was talking about Zoom calls. Anyway, we could do those again if we wanted to, but it was always just like the same 5 people. So, and no one wanted to click over and go into Zoom and all that kind of stuff. I'm liking the YouTube thing, and you guys can call in. I hope over time more of you will want to call in, because I've been maybe every other show taking a phone call, and I got it set up right here on my mixer and stuff. And so it's beautiful. You can just call in Love you too, Sandra. Call in, and you can call in and we'll just hang out and have a conversation. And I'm willing to go longer. I've noticed that most people don't come in until like maybe an hour after I've been on. Like maybe I'm doing the show too early or something, but I don't know where everybody's at or whatever. So I'll just stay longer. It's only once a week. But yeah, so thank you. You guys. Thank you guys. So you got to be in your hermit cave. You got to do that. You got to do your research. You got to do you got to have that quiet time so that you can get access to your inner state. And you need all that quiet time. And you're always going to need your quiet time. You're always going to need it. You can never be, to be an alchemist, you can never be a full-on extrovert, right? You can't just be one of these, like extroverts that's just constantly busy and the next thing and the next appearance and all that. You could do that for a moment. You can do that in phases. If you ever had to do that, you would do that, and you could do that for 6 months or a year or something like that. And then you'd have to go back into your lab, and then you could come back out. And so you can do that. You can have an extroverted mode. I have an extroverted mode. And, more like live music performer and all of that. And I have to travel and be on stages and all that. I have an extroverted mode. And Melissa, she was pretty much an introvert, and then she would get on stage and just the daimon took her over, and then she would just be the rock star, just super confident rock star. And then she'd get off stage and she's just like, what do I do? So, yeah. Oh, you don't have to call in today, Sherry. You don't have to call in. I'm not trying to push anybody to call in at any one time. I'm just saying, is this Carlos? Isn't it bad to be in hermit mode all the time? Yes, it is. My nature is to stay inside and relax. However, I think that forcing myself going outside has been, yeah. You do. If you're naturally an introvert, you do have to push yourself to go outside and to be with people, to go into nature, obviously, and that still can serve your introvert mode because you can be in nature alone. But you have to go into public and you have to interface with people, at least to the degree that is comfortable for you. Some extreme introverts get very drained very quickly. And so they can be in public for whatever it is. You can go to a party or you can go to an event or something, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. That was enough for me. And then you take a couple days to recuperate. But most people aren't, that introverted. But you got to do something and just go into the gym, or there's people around you, and going into the world in some way. Like if you work for yourself, or you don't have to work and you don't have to go into I work for myself as an audio engineer in my own house. So I don't necessarily have to go out that much. And so I have to push myself to go out. And so it is important, but it is also difficult when there's not any other alchemists out there. And so that's why I'm saying, these conferences, or I'm not going to get grandiose about this whole thing. Like, let's have, we'll do these in every state and blah, blah, blah. We'll have this, and we'll have our own secret society. And, I'm not getting grandiose about it. We're right at the beginning of this phase of the human potential movement, and just go with the flow and let it flow the way it does. But when you have energy to do something, you should do it. And if it means do a workshop, whether as an attendant or as a teacher, or you do a reading club with, if you know one or two other people in your area that can get together and you guys can all read a book and get together and talk about it and share notes and stuff, and do that once a week or once a month or whatever it is. If you can find people in your area who are other alchemists, do that for sure. And you can use social media to try to find them and stuff and all of that. And so you guys can all do that. And then if you want to help me in whatever way, you can do that, because my mission is a little bit bigger than that. My mission is not super big and grandiose, but it's big enough to where we could actually pull off a yearly conference. And I'm kind of like working towards that. And but it's going to have to happen in the way it happens. And so I'm very thankful that you guys are hanging out and that we are creating a community here. Top book recommendations. Yeah, I wanted to get back to you, Sherry, and talk to you about the so go to the YouTube description that's for this show, and go to the link that's in there. It's shadowtechalchemy.com/resources. Grab the Sheila Foster document that I read some of today, and grab all the Robert Moore lectures, and just grab that material. And then as far as books, you can start looking at Robert Johnson books. Robert Johnson is a great way to get into Jungian psychology. He's got books for men and women on there. There's one about feminine psychology called She, and masculine psychology called He. And there's the one that a lot of people start with, Owning Your Own Shadow. That's in there. And all kinds of books by Robert Johnson, because they're small books, they're easy to read, and they're not that complicated. And if you read his books, then he'll introduce you to the whole Jungian thing. And the Jungian thing is not the only way to do alchemy, but it is the most up-to-date Western alchemy that we have. And so if you're on this path, you really should have some kind of, be able to, understand the basic ideas of Jungian psychology and all of that. So Robert Johnson, Robert Moore, Sheila Foster's PDF. Who else? Oh, for women, especially women who are in the cave or in the dungeon, Marion Woodman. Read Marion Woodman. Marion Woodman, Addicted to Perfection is one of the most famous ones. Dancing in the Flames. There is a movie about Marion Woodman called Dancing in the Flames, and you should watch that movie for sure. That's great. It's available somewhere. I don't know if it's on Amazon Prime now, or the publishing company, or the whatever they call that, movie house or whatever, kind of pulled the bootlegs offline. But you can buy, you can rent it for $5 or something. Watch that, about her and her process. She's a Jungian who is very much about, all the deep feminine shadow work stuff and the mystic path and all of that, and her alchemical relationship with her husband. It's a great movie. And I think Andrew Harvey was kind of the interviewer or whatever, or he's a guy I think that kind of worked out how to do the movie. But what else for books for women? Yeah, Carol Pearson is another Jungian that I've read that's a woman, and let me look at I like Anthony Stevens and Eric Neumann. Marie-Louise von Franz. But some of these Jungians are complicated, and so it kind of takes some time. That's why I think people should listen to Robert Moore's lectures. Like I said, they're on the link there, because he's very understandable, and it's very understandable. And James Hillman, you can listen to James Hillman. A lot of these Jungians are uploaded to YouTube. You can listen to their lectures. James Hillman's very understandable and all of that. And Robert Moore is, he kind of goes into some advanced stuff, but he explains to you. You listen a little bit, and he doesn't go too far without explaining what he's talking about. And he overlays different psychologies. He overlays Freudian psychology, Kohutian psychology, and Jungian, and all this. It's a great education in just inner work and all of that. And most of it translates to women. There's women in all of his, going to his workshops and stuff too. And so it was never anything that women can't get. So it's for men and women. Oh yeah, Women Who Run with the Wolves. That's... what is her name? I can't remember her name right now. You need a counterbalance. You do. Introverts need an extroverted function. And you can take an online Myers-Briggs personality test. And I have to find the one that I recommend to you. I have to look that up. And but you could take a Myers-Briggs personality test and see where you're how introverted or extroverted you are, and your different the 4 functions in the Jungian typology. And so you try to eat outside a couple times a week for interaction. That's good with people. This is because I feel it sounds weird, but doing TRE, trauma release exercise. I'm not sure if I remember what that is. EMDR, yes. Leave me exhausted and not wanting to go out. Yeah, I guess you're doing EMDR with somebody else. Can you do it with yourself? I mean, I don't know if you can. Right. Well, then don't overdo it. You know, you got your whole life to do this. And Lauren says she likes the idea of making an alchemist book club meeting group. Actually, that could be cool. Oh, you're in Denver. Oh, I have a friend who's in Denver. Another woman, Monica. She's in Denver. She's also working on herself. She's also very bright. She isn't exactly studying the Jungian thing as much as maybe you are right now, but she's looked at IFS and she's done different kinds of healing modalities, and she was in doing all this tantric stuff for a while, and she's really on the path. And I talk to her pretty regularly, and so if you're on Facebook, Lauren, you can find me. Go to the Shadow Tech Alchemy website. And the little Facebook thing is like towards the top of the page or in the contact page. You'll see my Facebook link. Get me on Facebook and send me a message, and I'll show you Monica's profile, and you can join her. And if you guys can do something together. So, you're in Toronto for moi. Yes, right. Yes, I've been in Toronto. I've had some experiences there. Oh, you're Carlos. You're an INTJ, right? And I am also an INTJ, but I am kind of more shifted into an INFJ after my journey with Melissa. Oh, Sherry, you're in Montreal. Oh, hi, Sherry. Wait. So, do we have, hold on a second here. You have Sherry Ann, and then we have Sherry. So we have 2 Sherrys? Fringe Minority Report is Sherry? Oh. And Carlos is in Honduras. And I know Carlos because he's called into the show before. And if I forget people's names, you just keep reminding me. But I'm going to try to remember. Montreal isn't that far, exactly. You get the French part there. I grew up. Part of my childhood was in New York City. So, and one of my mom's best friends lived in Ottawa. So we would go to Canada sometimes in the summers, and I've been to Montreal. I've actually played with my band there a couple times. Actually, I think did I play twice? I think so. So I've been there a little bit. I've been on the metro. I remember as a kid getting on the metro and noticing the huge difference between the New York subway and the Montreal subway. It's probably not as good as it was. Oh, you're the same one? Okay. Oh, you have different. No, I was replying to Sherry. Oh, you're Lisa. Thank you. I love this. Okay. Hi, Lisa. Fringe Minority is Lisa. Okay, great. And when I get off the call, I'm gonna write all your names down on my paper, because I like to remember everybody's names and be very communal with things. So I'm in my lover mode now in this stage of my life. And are you on Sherry, are you on Facebook? Go on my Facebook page. Go to shadowtechalchemy.com. Look towards the top of the page, or on the contact page, there's a little F for Facebook. Go on there. Join me on Facebook. Everybody should just join me on Facebook. I talk about spiritual stuff on there. I don't post that often, but I check my messages every day. I post a couple times a week or something like that, and that's a good way to stay in touch with me. And a lot of people who are at least, millennials, Gen X, boomers, they're on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, just email me, shadowtechalchemy@gmail.com. Anybody just wants to email me privately, shadowtechalchemy@gmail.com. If you're not on social media, you can just do that. So, but back to, Clarissa Estes, right. Okay, yes, that was the Women Who Run with Wolves. So, back to Sherry Ann. So the thing is, okay, so here's where you are. So you're in hermit mode, and you're in introverted hermit mode and all of that, and you're getting in touch with your woundedness, and you're feeling all the yucky stuff that you didn't have time to feel before, and that you had to push off, and all of that. And you're feeling all that. Let me pull this off the thing, because sometimes I reuse these for videos later. I have to remember to do that, not to stay in that other mode. So you're in your magician mode, you're in your inner magician mode, you're in your introverted mode, and you're working on yourself, and you're doing your shadow work. You're getting in touch with all your stuff. Hopefully you're journaling. You can also be recording in your phone or micro recorder, or however you need to get stuff out. And you're doing that, and you're reading your Jungian psychology and whatever else is attractive to you, and you're learning about yourself, and you're developing the tolerance to be able to go back into the old memories and stuff, and to feel the old feelings, and to get in touch with anything that was kind of dark, and to metabolize it. And so if you look at my books, you'll see that I push this thing from John Ruskin called emotional clearing. Melissa and I called it emotional processing. And so basically, whenever you have shadow material that's coming up, and it's oftentimes through being triggered. When you're triggered by your partner, you're triggered by the world, or you just wake up in a crap mood, or something takes you over, and grief takes you over, or anger takes you over, you sit with it and you allow it to come through your body, and you allow if it's anger, it'll usually be on top, and you just let it be there. And then you let it give way to sadness and to crying. And then you cry. And you cry out the stuff, right? And it's also possible to get addicted to crying. And so you have to be careful with it. Like anything, you can overuse this medicine. But if you can get into that, especially if you haven't been able to cry, if you're somebody that always could cry and easily cried, then it might be more addictive for you. If you're somebody that didn't cry that much, then getting into being able to cry is going to be very good for you. And so you cry and you move through this stuff, and you analyze the stories that show up in your head, and realize that the stories are concocted. They're real events and real facts, which are like little dots, and then those dots are connected together in a pattern that creates the story that is archetypally appropriate for your psychic constitution, is not objectively real. The stories that you have about your past, about where you come from, about your difficulties and all of that, they have truth in there, but they are bits of truth or facts that are stitched together into a story that's only subjectively true and not objectively true. So you first have to kind of figure out what the stories are. And what are these stories that are running that you keep telling yourself, or that parts of you are running and telling yourself? And so get that up, write that out, get that out into your consciousness, and recognize it's just a story. Now, you don't just throw the story away. You can't throw the story away. It won't just go away because you want it to go away, just because you realize, oh, those are just stories I tell myself. I have self-defeating stories. I have self-defeating stories, or I have stories about how messed up the world is, or how bad my husband or wife is, or whatever it is, whatever the stories are. They don't just go away because of that. So you have to basically recognize what they are, hold on to them and go, okay, allow them to be there, but start to pull away from them and don't give them so much attention, and just sort of care for them like you would kind of a hurt animal. You know, it's like a feral cat or something like that. You can't get near it. It's going to scratch you. So you just kind of have to put food or water out for it and kind of just leave it alone. Right? So you form a relationship with the story, but you don't keep feeding the story. Right? It's just a story. And then so that's your kind of shadow work aspect. That's some of your shadow work that you're doing there. And then you're looking also, when you're down there in the cave and you're down there in the dirt, you're looking for your gold. So your gold, and if you can use that Robert Moore or Sheila Foster map, of the archetypes and where energy is supposed to flow, you can see your gold is where, look at your fantasies. Look at your fantasies. Look at your natural grandiosity. Look at the stuff that would naturally pull you into it. If the stories weren't there stopping you from doing it, what would you be doing? And so there's gold in there. And then there's also gold in areas that you haven't quite unearthed yet, because it's just a little bit deeper. But start with the material that is tied to secret grandiosity, right? So you have fantasies. So look at your fantasies, follow your fantasies, and they will show you where you have gold. And if the fantasies are positive, if the fantasies are negative, like how you're gonna, kill your mother or whatever, then no, that has to be unwound too. But that's shadow, but it's not shadow gold. So any of the fantasies that make you feel enlivened, but that you're too scared to act out, right? Or your story is too persuasive to keep you from following through with that fantasy. There's gold there. Start pulling on that. Now, some people can get to the point to where they get access to that stuff, and then they inject it right into their ego, and then they become manic and they become inflated, and then they fly like Icarus, and then they fall and hit the water again, and then they never want to try it again because that hurt. The last time they let their fantasies take over their ego and they got inflated, they flew for a minute and then they fell, and so then they don't want to try that again. So you have to be careful with your fantasies. But they're leading you to something, that they're leading you to gold. And start going back to your fantasies, going back to the things that you always liked to do and still like to do, or the things that you never liked to do before, but that you would like to do now. Start looking at those things and start pulling those back and start figuring out, what are the qualities of me and my personality that are there things in you that there's a part of you that's saying, if I don't do this, my life will be a failure? Is there anything like that in there? That if I don't do this, my life will be a failure? Do you have any of that? Because that needs to be attended to. Now, there's grandiosity built into that too that you have to be careful with. The whole idea that, if I don't, be some kind of superhero, then my life will be a failure. That's a fraud. That's some kind of a cultural overlay. But if there's something that is really in your soul code, and you've always known it and you've been carrying it around and you haven't had the chance to do it, you have to start going into that and start working with that and allow that to enliven you. So on one hand, you're crying, you're going through your old stories, you're allowing yourself to go into the muck, into the junk and stuff like that. And then on the other hand, you're looking for some gold that's in there too. And then you're starting to bring that in and starting to let that enliven you. And then if you feel that you have to push yourself sometimes to do things that are healthy, or to, like what we're saying with Carlos there, it's introverts and people are on the introverted mode. Yeah, you're gonna have to be on the introverted mode for a while, but you still need to be around people. You still need to go put yourself in public situations, go talk to people, go do things, help people out, volunteer for something, do something public, do something, and all of that, and have relationships. It's important that you have to have relationships. Yeah, that's your lover function, right? So go back to that map. Where's your relatedness? Where is your relatedness? Where is your sensuality? Where is your are you able to go into nature and feel nature and smell and feel and enjoy, and that's sensation. Where's your sensation function? That's your lover. And then where's your relatedness with other people? You can maybe do it with animals, but maybe you can't do it with people. Well, you need to now move it into with people. But I mean, obviously there's problems with relating to people and letting the lover just like spill out, because then people get the wrong idea and all that kind of stuff happens and all of that. But, and then we get into the whole thing of relationships and all of that. And then that takes you into, as an alchemist, once you become, pretty sure that this is the way you're going to be psychoanalyzing yourself and maturing yourself, you're going to want a partner who's going to do that too. So that but you can open your mind up to relationships. If you haven't had relationships going on for a while and you think, oh, well, I can't find anybody else that's like me around here, open your mind to it. Just start imagining it, allowing it to happen in your imagination. Make a story around it, and how that you can do that in your imagination, and start to get the chemicals of relatedness going in your imagination. Start letting that kind of do that, and get on the phone with people, or do whatever you have to do to relate to people. Call into this show if you want to. Relate to people. So that's your lover function, right? You got your magician going on, right? But your magician can be about serving yourself and your own knowledge and figuring yourself out, but your magician can also be used to help other people, right? Help them figure stuff out. So you can use your magician for other people, and that also brings in the relatedness part. Or your warrior part, you're not really using that when you're in this mode, but you're not using it in the extroverted function when you're in this mode, but you have to use your warrior in the introverted way. In other words, you have to have discipline and willpower. Melissa and I talked about the archetypes of will and faith that are in our first book. And will and faith. So you have the masculine and the feminine. And will is the ability to see things through and do things. It's the warrior, and faith is the lover, and so you have to go with the flow. Faith is you go with the flow, you let go of the need to save the world and all of that, and just let things go with the flow, and just enjoy your time here. But then the warrior says, but there are things that I'm here to do. And I am put on this planet to do things. Yes, it's a stage. Yes, it's a play. Yes, it's a movie, but I have a part to play. I have multiple parts to play. And that takes discipline. Actors have to learn their roles. They have to become skilled at what they do, even though it's just an act. This is all just an act. It's all just a play, but you have to play your character and your role with competence. And so you need that willpower. Or if it means to go into, do something that's just uncomfortable with the shadow work or with therapy or something like that, you have to push yourself into it. You have to have will. So the warrior has to be there too. And so let me see if there's any other comments from you guys. So I'm just talking to you, Sherry, in just in general here, and just kind of going over a lot of stuff to kind of give you some. Okay, you need to find some people. Trust me, I tried and I helped and I gave and I rescued even my own daughter, but I can't get a hand to move a box. Oh, did you get the Sheila Foster document? Like I keep saying, I read it over, the shadow of the mother, right? Where she sort of becomes a martyr because she just does everything for everybody else and never has time for herself, and no one wants to help her. And so now she has this whole modality of being a sacrificer, and she sacrifices, right? So this is a shadow mother archetype. And so this is so you need some warrior. I can see right there from that right there, you need to activate some warrior, right? So do some stuff that's warrior oriented, that's goal oriented. Set some goals for yourself in whatever it is and accomplish some things, some projects. Accomplish some projects and yeah, great. Accomplish the projects, set some goals, accomplish those projects. If you need to go to the gym and start working out and keep a schedule, or go to yoga and go there every day or every other day or whatever it is, and put your discipline into something and start activating your warrior energy, because that's what gets you out of the shadow mother who's being taken advantage of and walked over and feels like she's just always sacrificing and all of that. You need some warrior energy going in there. See how we've been using the 4 archetypes model tonight to diagnose things? And as you listen, as you read the Sheila Foster or you listen to the Robert Moore lectures, you will get a feel for this whole model and how to use it, and how it's so elegant way of problem solving and understanding where your energies are and where they're not. 15 years as a single parent, no child support, no community. Oh, you warriored for a long time, but you just got tired, and oh yeah, I understand that too, right. Women who run with the wolves, myths and stories of the wild woman archetype. Yeah, yes, right, exactly, yes. Someone else mentioned that earlier. Yes, that is that. I know Melissa read that book. I have not read that book. Well, so now then, let's approach it from another angle. So when you've, this is also common though. Well, maybe, so a lot of times women don't get their warrior turned on until later in life. But if you have to be a single parent, then you have to turn it on early. And so maybe you're burnt out on warrior, so now you need lover. But if you just go into lover all the time, then you're just like, then you might just kind of fall into, you're going to, Sherry, you're going to have to sort of analyze things under this model here. Look at the material and look at this model, and you're going to have to find where your passion is, like I'm saying earlier, where your gold is. You're gonna have to find where down in there, because you're in another stage of life now. And you got something different to do other than parenting coming up, right? And so you're gonna have to find your gold, find the calling for the second half of life. And start focusing on that and getting some jollies off of that. You're gonna have to start getting your jollies. You're gonna have to start getting access to your ecstasy. Where is your ecstasy? Where is your libido? You're going to have to find your ecstasy, find your libido, find your fantasy, and start putting your attention into that. That's what you're going to have to do now. Your daughter's 21 and lives on her own. Excellent. Okay. And now we don't speak. Wasn't what I expected, but I think she's like her dad. Well, I mean that clinically, not capable of, maybe her dad was a psychopath, maybe not. Maybe your dad was a psychopath. And so maybe it's in the family, or maybe not a psychopath, but maybe a narcissist. And when you're 21 and you're experimenting, I mean, the stuff I did when I was 21, got together with my children's dad and went through 10 years of religious abuse. Okay, right. Where I was Satan because I was white, no one could minister to me. Yeah. So listen, you have been, look at, what's the book called? Forged in Darkness by Joanna Laprade. Forged in Darkness. Her description of Persephone. Melissa had this too. And Sandra knows about this too. This is Persephone. She's constantly going down into the underworld, getting sucked down by Hades. But here's the thing about Persephone. And if you want to work with me privately, you can, Sherry. If that's something you want to do, I extend that to you. But I'm happy to. I like doing this here too. So the Persephone goes into the underworld. She's constantly getting sucked into the underworld, and it's a shadow of feminine. But on the other side of the underworld is ecstasy. It is the springtime girl. And Melissa had Persephone going, and she had plenty of time in the underworld like you did, and plenty of abuse, and plenty of psychopath boyfriends and all that kind of stuff, and rape and the whole thing. Plenty of that stuff. But she also had access to her ecstasy, to her joy as a musician, as a performer. And she was very able to access that. Not while she was in underworld, but when she was above, when it was springtime again. And she utilized that. And so it's important to recognize Persephone is not just down in the underworld hating life. She's got that modality, but she also is able to experience ecstasy and relatedness and love and joy and excitement and all of that. So if you have Persephone running in your psyche, and she's not, and Hades isn't letting her out for the second half of the year, you have to just accept, you have to learn to accept that part of you. And you're very oriented towards this story. And this story has come down to you. You didn't invent it. This story, this scripting, this movie script that you're living right now, that got passed to you, and then life circumstances sort of put it into place. And now you've got these archetypes running, and the shadow manifestations of these archetypes are running, and those archetypes are going to be there, and you have to work through the shadow manifestations and bring in the healthy manifestations of those archetypes. So because the thing is that it's important to tell your story, and people like me will be fascinated by it, and we will listen to it and we'll learn from it and be able to give you feedback. But you as a human being, you have to find another scene in this movie. You have to move into another scene. You can't just hold on to, you can use this. You can be like, okay, I had this very difficult life and I had these traumatic experiences, and this is what gave me access to the underworld. And now that becomes a superpower if you can use it. If you can actually use your access to the underworld, most people can't force themselves to do shadow work or force themselves into the shadow. You can already do that because you've had these experiences. You already initiated into the underworld. So you have that. But now you have to go digging for your gold down there and start pulling up other aspects of your story. Because this other story is valid and it's part of who you are, but you can't let it be your total identity and run you. It has to be and so it informs you. It informs where you're going. It informs what you're doing. But it can't be you. You can't be the story, right? That's like narcissistic and grandiose to let a story because it makes you into the archetype. It actually, in a way, you can be in a shadow archetype. You can be in Persephone in the underworld, and you can be very charged with energy to hold on to that modality, even though your conscious mind says, this sucks, I don't want to run this story anymore. The archetype is strong and it's beyond your ego, and it will just keep pulling on you and keep trying to, like a drug dealer, keep shooting you up with the stuff. And so you can't keep going back to the drug dealer, back to the pimp of the shadow archetype. Let's see here. I'm gonna catch up with you guys here. Is it possible that the archetypes we get forced into Lisa, we get forced into by life circumstances, e.g. single parenthood, more often take us into the shadow side of the archetype? Yes, archetypes we get forced into by life circumstances. Yes, of course. When you get forced into something by life circumstances, the shadow side of the archetype is being invited into your ego, into your consciousness. Yeah. So, and that is an experience that you have to have. And it is an experience that you have to have on your journey. You have to go through that. All these archetypes are numinous. That's why the Greeks, projected them out as gods and goddesses that can take you over and run you. They're numinous. They're beyond the individual. They're collective, and they're very, very powerful, and they will run you into the ground, and they're amoral. And they don't care about your personal feelings. So these archetypes are just looking for you to invite them in, or for life circumstances to let them in, and then they will run, and then they get their fix, so to speak, right? And so on one hand, you can't deny an archetype access to you, but what you can do is work through the shadow manifestation of the archetype into the bright or positive manifestation of the archetype, right? And some of these archetypes, you can invite other archetypes in to balance those. Like if you have too much warrior, you can bring the lover in to balance the warrior. Or if you have too much lover going on, you can bring the warrior in, right? And so you can find ways through thoughts, through emotional processing, through all kinds of ways that I can give you all the ways that I've been giving you, but it's ultimately up to you to find all the ways that you want to use to express and to move through these energies and allow other forms of these energies to start to move through you. And everything we've just now said, that all we've been talking about, this whole analysis of energy and shadow energy and all of that, is coming through this Jungian 4 archetypes view. And it's only one model. It's very useful, and you can see it can take us somewhere, but I can now flip into IFS, internal family systems. right? And I can go boom, and I can put on the internal family systems hat, right? And then I can be like, okay, well, you have an exiled part, you have a wounded part, and it's sitting there in exile, dissociated from the psyche. And then you've got protector parts, right? You got managers and firefighter parts that are protecting that part. And those parts are directing you. Those are the parts that are running your story. And they're running you around and putting you into life circumstances and injecting stories and thoughts into your ego, right? That will steer you in such a way so that the exile doesn't get hurt again. Or I think that it will feed some other part that they call an unattached burden in IFS. It'll feed an autonomous complex, or what Eckhart Tolle calls a pain body, right? And so if we go into this kind of modality, that's less about flows, like the 4 archetypes is about flows. It's like energy, where it's being channeled and whether or not it's like plumbing. Robert Moore talks about plumbing or circuitry and energy flows and switches. The switch, you turn on the lever, you turn off the lever. The lever's in the shadow on this direction, and the lever's in the shadow in this direction. It's like that. It's like circuitry or like plumbing or whatever. But then when you go into IFS and autonomous complexes and pain body in this kind of analysis, now you're talking about things. You're talking about parts. You're talking about parts that do stuff. You're talking about you're talking about individual entities, right? When people talk about entities, we're talking about entities now. And what are these entities doing, right? So this is another kind of layer to do things with. So we can talk about pain bodies and stuff like that. So we could say, well, you have a pain body, right? You got a pain body, or you get these IFS parts, these exiled parts. We can go to the pain body. You got a pain body. Okay, the pain body is addicted to suffering, Sherry. The pain body is addicted to suffering. It likes to suffer. It likes self-destructive stories. It likes self-destructive relationships. It likes you being a sacrificer and a martyr. And it doesn't like joy and ecstasy. That's kryptonite to it, right? It likes depression and anxiety and feelings of self-deprecation and all of that. It likes that stuff. That's what the pain body likes, right? So if we look at it from that view, we're like, oh, you got a pain body. And so you got to work, you got to purge the pain body and start to become aware of this pain body's feeding cycle and what it likes to say and what it likes to do and how it likes to steer you and all of that. So you have to put attention on that. Look at it from that angle. It's another angle we can look at things from. But it all comes back to where is your joy, where is your ecstasy, regardless of the fact that the pain body doesn't like it. The pain body can't be the master of the rest of your life. I mean, it can be, it is for some people, but those people don't usually become alchemists. They just become drug addicts on the street or battered women who get killed. You know, they don't usually become conscious alchemists that want to figure this stuff out. So if you're finding that that is who you are and that is what you're doing, well, then there's something else for you that your capital S self, your big S self, your soul code is saying, all right, those experiences were good. You learned those experiences because shadow experiences are just as valid to the God being as anything else. And so you learned those experiences, and now there's other stuff because you've been directed into this magician work to how to problem solve yourself out of this particular storyline and into something else, right? Now, I don't think about it like The Secret and all that kind of stuff. It's more of a slow process, but that's what's happening here. That's why you're even on a show like this or even willing to read books like that. Oh, you were healthcare, right? So yeah, so you're got the mother archetype running. You've been a mother, and then you were in healthcare. You're being everyone's mother, right? And then you're getting your validation from others from your mother role, and you're tolerating all kinds of BS. In the hospital, you have to tolerate all kinds of BS, corporate stuff and patient stuff and all of that. You got to shut your mouth and everything. You can't say what you really think and all of that. And so then that vax thing got you kicked out of there, and so now you're out of there, and that's good. You're supposed to get out of that mode. That's not supposed to be your whole mode. Okay, you can check in with me, absolutely. Was top of my class, graduated university, busy business in another country while working full-time. Right, you were doing all that. There was a lot of greatness too. Well, good, I'm glad you recognize that. That's good. You actually ended up dating a pimp. I didn't know after the preacher. See these archetypes, these stories, they run us, right? And so, but I can call at times and break free of that. There's fun, loving, caring. Yeah, exactly. I believe I can take those experiences and really want to. Right. So you always want to. Right. You're always going to want to help others, and there is a. So the more. Okay. So listen. The more advanced level of the mother is the queen, right? The mother is constantly there taking care of her babies, right? And that's her modality. And you can stay in mother for the rest of your life. And if you're shadow mother and you're just becoming this sacrificial martyr mother, right? Well, then, okay. But the queen is mama for a lot of people. Mama for an organization, right? Mama for a greater purpose and a greater group and a community, right? And so mama for a greater group can't just be nursing everyone all the time, right? Mama for the community or for an organization, she has to be a queen. And a queen has a healthy warrior, a healthy lover, and a healthy magician all built in, and they're all flowing relatively in balance, relatively, never perfectly, but relatively. And so you've got to get these flows in balance and stuff, and start to, and sounds like, get some more self-time and more, and get some more, we'll have to see what's going on in your particular case, but start experimenting with these other flows and working on the pain body and stuff, and start imagining yourself in another story so that you can be not a mother but a queen, right? Start to imagine your queen role, right? Which is a larger role than just a nurse or a mother. And yes, you always need balance. It's all about balance. Data architecture. Oh, and that's what you were doing in oh, well, that's magician work. Right. You weren't being a nurse. Okay. But you're being a mother though. You have your daughter. So anyway, this is the path. Enjoy the path. It's great. It's freaking amazing. It's a labyrinth, It's a labyrinth. And there's other people doing it, and we're going through the same stuff that you're going through. If you watch the movie about Melissa. When you send me a message and I'll send you the password for as a matter of fact, I might actually have put it. Let me see. Did I put it? I think I put it in a place recently where you can find it without. Yes, you don't have to. Okay, write this down. Go to shadowtechalchemy.com/film. I forgot I put that up there. Shadowtechalchemy.film. Shadowtechalchemy. I'm going to put it in here right now. I'm going to type it into the chat. Oh, you're welcome. That's why I'm doing this. I'm moving into my king mode. You know what I'm saying? So this is about a greater thing than just me. So, okay. I'm going to write it down here. Film about Melissa. /film. shadowtechalchemy.com/film. Yeah, because I put the movie up there and I put the password up there. I can't release it publicly while I put it out to film festivals. Watch a film about Melissa. You'll learn about me. You'll learn about Melissa. You'll learn about a woman, a magician, an alchemist woman who's channeling the Persephone and who had both sides of it. She had the dark night of the soul side, and then she had the springtime girl. And am I finding this stuff on my website? Yeah, well, yeah, shadowtechalchemy.com/film, and then shadowtechalchemy.com/resources. Alchemy.com/resources to find the Sheila Foster and Robert Moore material. Yes. And then whatever else you want to look at on the website. So, yeah, join the party. And so, so is there anybody else that wants to chat, or is there anything else on our? Yes, you got it. You definitely got it. You got the download. So I'm gonna look at my notes here. I got stuff that I'll save for next week, and anybody else free to contact me in between. Get on my Facebook. Lauren, if you're still there, contact me. And anybody else that wants to, it's cool. We had a good show tonight. We hung out and we talked about a lot of stuff. Yeah, you're out. It was lovely. It was a good show. And you can always go back if you want to go back to the beginning. In the beginning, I was just kind of talking about, like missionary stuff. Like I'm always talking about missionary stuff and all of that. You want to suggest, Carlos, a show about practical ways to move into the warrior, stop procrastination? Yes, of course. Suggest anything. We want to learn from you. Absolutely. So, but the thing about all these stop procrastination type lessons and all that kind of stuff, they don't work if you have one of these shadow expressions running, or in IFS, we would say, if you have a protector part that is afraid that if you use your warrior energy, then there's too much fear there. You're afraid that you're going to get rejected. You're afraid that you're going to get beat up. You're afraid you're going to get in some way, some kind of pushback, and that's an unconscious child part that's in there, an exiled part, and you try to turn on your warrior, and that part, is just constantly, or multiple parts are constantly pushing you back, and so you just forget and you just can't get into it, and the procrastination and all that. If there are fears that are going on, like I'm working on one of my own fears right now, because I'm having to move into being more public. I was always, like I said, I was always public. I always had my extroverted mode as a musician, as a performer. I was in magazines and all kind of stuff, from early on. But taking this thing that I was telling another friend recently, moving, it was very easy for me. I have musicians in my family line, and it was very easy for me to, a lot of fear. You got to feel it. You got to move into it. It's in the stomach. It's in the gut. You got to move into it, and you got to talk to it. Do the IFS parts work with it, and figure out where that's coming from, and what is it. Use your imagination, your active imagination. Figure out what it is that's blocking you from going into the next thing because of fear. So, I'm kind of like, I'm not so blocked that I can't do what I need to do. I can. And I got plenty of warrior energy. I know how to use it. But I have parts. I have child parts that are still, from school and stuff, school days parts, child parts that are still fearful of things that are new. Like I was saying, the musician thing, I can do that. Man, I can put together bands. I can do stuff that most musicians cannot do. I can produce albums, I can write albums, I can put together bands, I can take bands internationally around the world, I can do all the stuff, I can do all that. As like most people can't even do that or even imagine doing that. And so it's like some things I can do, hard stuff I can do. And then something like, being a lecturer on alchemy or something like that, it's just like I get pushback. Not so much on the YouTube as much, but going into the world and touring and lecturing and being a public intellectual and stuff, that's kind of outside of my family system. And there's still pushback there and everything, and it will present itself as procrastination. But in my case, it's procrastination. I'm so self-aware now that I don't allow myself to procrastinate past when I get a feeling of, I get an intuition of, if you wait too long on this task, then you're falling behind. I will procrastinate, but then when that message shows up, I'm like, okay, no more, can't procrastinate. So I do. I move forward. I move slowly, but I move forward. And so I do what I'm supposed to do, but then I get attacked in my body with symptoms, what John Sarno calls TMS. I get symptoms. I get attacked in my back, in my shoulders, in my neck. I get knives in my back. Lower back or upper back, anywhere in my back usually. Sometimes in other parts of my body too. And Melissa used to get this stuff too in different kinds of ways. I get attacked. And so when things are up on the table for me and I got to start doing things that are scary or that my little child parts don't like, I get hit. I get hit with symptoms. And then those, I just got one. I just got a back attack about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it lasted a couple weeks. It's been gone for about 4 days now. So they last. Those things last for a few weeks, but I know what they are. I know what's going on. I talk to my parts, and I try to get myself in balance, and I try to get myself, try to work it through, and then they calm down. And so I have to, when I was younger, when the music thing was harder for me, I used to get those before tours and stuff like that, or I used to go on tour and then get problems with my body and my, trip and fall and hurt my wrist or all kinds of stuff like that, because these are parts that are pushing back, that are afraid of going forward. So I get physical symptoms more than anything else, but I push through and I do get stuff done. So, but it's not easy. It's not easy for me. Yeah, you're welcome, Carlos. You feel that fear of leaving behind what I know. If I stop procrastinating, I'll need to move forward in many ways. Yes. Your hips, lower right back and shoulders get dense, contracted when I get into this loops. Exactly. That's exactly it. Start looking at the IFS, internal family systems, and start communicating with your parts if you can. And understand that you have protective parts that are trying to protect you from getting hurt or being humiliated and or shamed. And they're back there trying to protect you. And they're doing a good job. And these symptoms and this procrastination is trying to protect you. And you can't force yourself to warrior through it, because these things will just figure out a way to knock you back. And so you got to work with those parts. You got to calm those parts down. See, now we're in another language now. We just switched over to IFS language, right? We were talking Robert Moore and Sheila Foster, Jungian. Now we're talking IFS. So these are all useful models, and you just overlay one on top of the other. You need multiple models because we don't understand how the psyche works. And the experts, they don't know either. Nobody really knows. So we just have to put together our own alchemical toolkits here. But yeah, so find that fear, find what it is that you're so fearful of, what it is that's pushing back. It's Robert Moore. I was listening to him again lately and talking about your family system, and how when your destiny, when your creative destiny has to do with something that is not part of your family and that your family would not understand, you're going to get a lot of pushback internally. You're going to get a lot of pushback internally trying to manage. The Jungians know this. It's one of the greatest difficulties in life is to manifest a creative destiny that is not in line with your family culture. That is one of the greatest things, and you will have a lot of pushback doing that. So you're not alone. You're not alone, and but you keep forging forward. Okay, everyone. Thank you all. So it's Tuesday now. We'll be back next Tuesday. And if there's anything I can help you with, find me online or Facebook or comment on YouTube, whatever. And then we will be back next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central. You're welcome. We'll be back 7 p.m. Central, and then we'll do it again. And if you have any questions that you want addressed next show, you want to send them in advance, you can do that too. And if you know anybody else that's on the path, send them over to the show, because we got to build this community. And then if anybody wants to call in, you can do that. Carlos has called in. If anybody else wants to, appreciate it. You're very welcome, Carlos, and everybody else. Thank you all. Love you guys, and I will see you next week. Have a great week.